big, beautiful bill passed, everybody. Congratulations if you're into that sort of thing. Almost an agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. Check us out on your favorite podcast provider. Like, friend, share, follow, text us to your friends. Do what you can do to support the show. I think I'm just going to keep lying to you guys and promise interviews and never get around to doing them. I don't really mean to. It's just I'm busy. I got stuff to do that actually generates me income and other and maybe some joy, because there's some people that I really want to talk to that would make some joy, but it also would put some people that I enjoy out by having to clear the studio and the house farm. Anyway, almost agreement at gmail.com. Check us out. We're going to do what we do. Big show feels? I don't know. I'm not sure. Do you feel like it's a big show tonight? Do you feel like we're going to have a big one? Like there's some hot action? I feel like last week I got through on my UT. Anyway, we'll talk about it. Almost agreement, everybody. Here we go. Hello, good friend.
Good evening.
How do you do?
I be.
How are things in your world?
Oh, they going okay.
What is new and exciting with you and your families?
Nothing new and exciting with the fam.
Okay, well, we did a show, everybody. You're welcome. Almost an Agreement is back. I don't know. All right, we'll start here. How has this mass deportation thing been going, in your opinion, as far as some of the tactics used by the current federal administration on trying to find, detain, and deport some of these dangerous individuals? How do you feel like that's going?
I think it's been somewhat questionable in some of the tactics.
What do you mean somewhat questionable?
I've heard some where I'm assuming it's in some kind of, I hate to say the word collusion, but with the court system, to where they're basically people will show up to a court date.
Yep. They'll have canceled the court date without announcing it. Yeah, I've heard that one. Yep.
Not canceling it. They'll call them up and they're like, okay, well, we're going to dismiss this case. So essentially their case is dismissed, which I guess just
right, which means they're instantaneously
picked up. Yeah.
Right, don't have a right to be here at that point.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Okay. What other?
Say the masking is questionable.
I have that.
I mean, there was that one, was it a Tufts student or something? Mm-hmm. A young woman that just
jacked her off a sidewalk.
Yeah,
that one didn't.
And it's happened the other times where people have, I guess, it's questionable. They're like, they don't know if they're getting kidnapped or not.
Right, and there have been stories of people who are actually doing kidnappings under the auspice, like under the MO, if you will, of how ICE is doing some of their.
I haven't seen too many cases, but I've heard it mentioned that I guess there's
been a couple, at least, as far as I've heard.
That there's like vigilantes out there like pretending to be police, right? Doing. Right. I don't even know what. I haven't heard too many stories, but I've kind of heard it in passing. That
I actually haven't heard the vigilantism one, and I guess maybe that.
Not really being a vigilante. I think some are doing it just to like fuck with them. Like I've actually seen one video
just
of like
racist
some like 18-year-old kid that was like trying to say he was a federal officer and was. I don't think he held him at gunpoint or anything. Was just like straight up harassing him and. Just like, oh, you been here, blah 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 blah.
Right, because that's the one. Like that's the one to me that has got to be bent out of shape. And and it's kind of funny. One of the things that I've railed on you a bunch about over the time of this show, especially when you're railing about how dumb Trump is and how Trump makes us look bad as a nation, in which I never really disagree with you on it, but mostly my general take was always like, I don't give a shit what the rest of the world thinks about us. This one's starting to cross that line where I'm starting to care how people perceive us. Because this is just like that. This ICE detainees with the masks and the not identifying and not having warrants and not fucking bothering with due process. And I got into a big argument with a couple people on the internet this week about it because they were like, these criminals and whatever. And it's like, how do you know they're criminals?
It seems like some are like just literally like low hanging fruit.
Sure. It's just
like they're showing up at Home Depot.
Right. But it's the show that Trump wants, and that's part of why I'm actually on board with he makes us look like assholes to the international community. Like at this point, it's just like, but like my argument when I was getting into it with these people, with a couple of different people about it, it's like, listen, at the end of the day, apparently there've been the agents masking themselves is because apparently the internet does what the internet does, and people get pictures of these guys, and then they put them out in the world, and right. they're finding where these people live, and people are threatening them. Apparently, there's some app that exists now. Have you heard about this? Apparently, Trump has threatened to sue CNN which he'll make another $16 million off of another news organization for his presidential library when this is all said and done. CNN had made mention of it in a story on ICE detainees and issues that ICE officers are having with the public and blah, blah, blah. But they're like, it's an app. It says like, here's where the ICE guys are. And I think my guess on it is it's more designed to be like, we've heard that, this Home Depot parking lot is about to get raided. If you're planning on going there to try to find work, maybe skip today.
I was thinking something kind of like the Waze app where people are, I guess, are putting on there like, hey, we saw people here.
Right. I think my guess is that's what the app is than anything. But anyway, like the Trump administration's pissed off that CNN had put it on the show because they said, well, you're advertising this app to people so they can harass our agents. And apparently it's been happening. Agents have been getting like doxxed, and people are showing up protesting, angry at their houses and shit like that, threatening their lives, their family and kids and shit, which is not okay.
Right.
I'm not accepting that. That is not okay in any way, shape, or form. I don't condone that in any measure. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. You're an ICE agent, right? That means you're the United States Federal Immigration. What is it? What's ICE stand for?
Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
All right. So you're an ICE agent. So you are essentially you are an agent of the state, which means you exist on my behalf. That is like I am a citizen at least. So, those of us that are citizens, ICE exists on our behalf. It exists to be the somewhat militant arm of, immigration and customs enforcement. I can get behind the idea. We need to have a military. We need to have police. We need to have these things exist. I struggle with the different parts and pieces of it from time to time. But if we're on the same playing field, that there is something to what we call law and order, and there are the people that have to go out there and get in the trenches and do it and stuff like that. Well, when they're doing it, they're representing us. We elected the people who created the programs that they're out there executing. And so, I don't know, feels kind of like a bitch move to me to be hiding behind a mask if you're doing what the people want. Because if you're needing to hide behind the mask because the people don't want it, then we have a problem with democracy here. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a problem. There's a problem in the conversation. Like, when like Desert Storm was going on, and we were young enough to think that was awesome, and like they were trading cards of soldiers and stuff like that. I had my Schwarzkopf General baseball card, yeah. And like there was some hero worship to these people that were out there defending our freedoms, kind of thing. Well, is that not what an ICE agent is theoretically doing? Isn't that the practice? They're defending our freedoms by removing people that aren't supposed to be here. Why are they hiding? Like, is it a Batman scenario? Do they need to go incognito to do the job? Because then it does rifle into this weird gray area to me. It's like, well, if you're not proud of doing it and it's just your job and you've been assigned to do this, but you wouldn't need to hide yourself because people don't like what you're doing. It's like, well, there's a problem in the system here. No, it's not okay that you're getting threatened or your family's getting threatened because people figure out who you are. That's not okay in any way, shape, or form. I'm not condoning or encouraging that. But at the same time, if what you're doing is something that you need to hide your face for, maybe you shouldn't be doing it. Maybe we collectively shouldn't be doing it. Maybe it's not acceptable and we know it, and that's why we allow them to do it that way.
Do you have the same thought about, kind of protesters that...
No, because they're not fucking government agents.
I agree.
That's one of my problems, because that was one of the arguments somebody gave me. Well, those criminals can wear masks while they protest, and these criminal protesters and these crazy loony leftists in their masks all the time. It's like, yeah, and then you were one of many people who were telling me I had to wear a mask to go outside. Get fucked. I am an individual. I have a right to... I get it. There's part of me in a more like purist sense that sure, like if there is something that is so egregious that I felt the need to stand up and scream and say, hey, this is not okay. It's, again, kind of a bitch move to be behind a mask on it. But I'm a private citizen. I am not acting on behalf of the state of Tennessee or the United States of America or Knox County even.
Right.
Like, this isn't me doing the job that I was asked to by a constituency of people. This is me standing up for what I think is right. And for my own personal safety, and where we live in a surveillance state at this point anyway, I think it's in my best interest to not advertise who I am when I'm making these statements. Because there are people that go out there and make these statements and all of a sudden go to jail or disappear or worse. Because the state is doing that to people. And so out of actual fear for my life and stuff like that, because we don't have a First Amendment really anymore where you could say whatever you want and get away with it.
I don't know I don't know if it's confirmed, but I'm assuming that ICE kind of deputizes some like state officers or something as well to kind of bring them in whenever they do these things.
Oh, it's like the little like.
No, a number of counties have kind of like signed up and are willing to participate. So I'm assuming some of those officers. There was an argument with somebody about like different like local county versus like state. I think they were saying they had like different like arrest powers, and I was like, no, I was like, you have to be within your jurisdiction to have like any kind of like law enforcement like ability.
Right, like a Knox County Sheriff. Well, I don't know. There's agreements between like City of Knoxville could detain somebody outside of the city limits. Like a city cop could show up at my door, even though I'm in the county, and I would be obliged.
I think they could pull you over, but I don't think they can actually like arrest you. I think it has to be within. I mean, because I don't think they could actually on like high-speed chases or whatever. They pretty much like if it goes to like another county, like the other county has to take over that chase.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I would wager that if we got in a high speed and a Knox County was chasing me, and I went into,
I think they can assist, but as far as like apprehending you, they can't.
I mean, I think they could complete and detain, but then the actual arrest, because I don't know. I think the question in play here is the first question is: are you allowed to leave your jurisdiction to apprehend somebody who did a criminal act in your own jurisdiction? Like I saw you run the stop sign on North Shore.
Yeah, it depends on where.
And you got to Blount County before I could get you pulled over. The crime was committed in Knox County. Can a Knox County officer leave the county to cite you for something that happened in the county? That's one. But two, I guarantee you, there's agreements. There's cross jurisdictional agreements that, at minimum, that a Knox County officer goes into Blount County. I make my run for it and go towards the airport or whatever, and I get on Alcoa Highway down by the airport. Yeah,
they force you onto the airport property that's City of Knoxville.
Right,
property.
and it's City of Knoxville again. Good call.
They just pit maneuver you into it. But no, I've seen like actual court cases where
it's City of Knoxville, it's not Knox County,
where some have gotten thrown out because they were, I guess, either the crime was committed or whatever, like outside of that officer, outside of like the county's jurisdiction or that town's jurisdiction.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's some weirdism to it,
because it was like some weird like state highway or something. They're like, actually, like that's outside of the boundaries, so technically, like. This case is moot. Right,
because I always get weird on the interstate when like a Greene County cop comes cruising down the interstate.
Right,
lights on or off. Like I've never seen. Actually, now that I say that, I don't know that I've seen.
I've seen some random counties, but I'm assuming they're kind of going to and from like court cases or whatever.
Why would they need to leave their own jurisdiction for a court case if they can only do things in their own court case?
They may have been a part of something, or
I would think more. I would think
taking somebody to and from jail.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. Is that you get somebody that gets picked up by KPD for something small, and then when they get run through the system, there's warrants out for them in Greene County, so Greene County officer has to come pick them up. Yeah. I'm sure Knox County paddy wagons from time to time make a cruise down to Chattanooga to drop people off at the psych center down there.
Yeah. And
I'm sure Knox County paddy wagons have to go down to Chattanooga at the end of something and bring those people back. I don't think they're allowed to just leave them in Chattanooga.
All right.
So I don't know. To be honest, I don't know the correct answer to that. I would wager that there are at minimum some like connecting jurisdictional agreements. Like Knox County can go into Sevier County, at least like peripheral Sevier County, peripheral. Loudoun County, like any of the counties that touch Knox County, Knox County officers can probably go into. But if it gets deep,
they have no arrest powers, though.
I don't know. I mean, I think they'd have detainment powers, but I think they would probably have to have a local come and do the actual arrest.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, but what I was talking about was more, I guess, kind of the difference between like county, state, and like federal law, to where immigration is a federal law. To where Knox County Sheriff, like you said, they could detain them. Because I've heard of times where, a person's been detained at the jail and they've called ICE or whoever, and, they give them like 2 or 3 days and ICE never gets back to them, so they finally have to just let them go. Because they can't do anything with like immigration, because that's not a county or state ordinance, really.
Well, but then you have stuff like the 287G program, which Knox County does participate in. Which is basically,
I think it's still like a hold.
It's supposed to be right. It's supposed to be a hold till ICE comes and takes them to a federal center.
Right.
But I believe it extends that timeline. because I think part of the 287G program for Knox County is surrounding counties are bringing ICE detainees to Knox County, so that when
we have a bigger jail or something.
Right, when ICE comes, they can pick up more people in one stop, and then take them all down there to Alligator Alcatraz.
Yeah, I think it did just open up.
I don't know, man. Like I don't know. I don't fucking want to talk. To me, it's like this is back to the original point. It's like I don't know. Like I remember saying, and I guess I need to go on the record of apologize for it. I remember saying at one point that or at least asking the question of, do non-citizens of the United States or in some sort of status, if you have a visa, if you have a green card, if you have that kind of stuff, but if you don't have any of that stuff, if you're truly here illegally, do you have the right to any of the U.S. due process? And yes. I remember kind of arguing that maybe you don't. And it's like, and I'd still kind of argue that maybe you don't. But the problem is we have to extend that, because if we don't extend that, then we do stupid shit like send American citizens to El Salvador prisons or down to Alligator Alcatraz and treat them as illegal immigrants when they are not.
Right.
And so while I could get behind the argument that you individual who snuck in across the border from Canada and are, some Canadian guy who's living here illegally gets wrapped up in this thing, you don't necessarily have due process rights by the United States law. But we have an obligation. We have an obligation as a society to give you due process anyway, to make sure we're fucking right.
I think Supreme Court has come down and said that they do have due process.
I hope so. I do. Like I said, I think I could make the argument against it, but for the sake of the accidental, but again, like
I think I read about a Canadian that actually died in detention, like in the last.
I didn't mean
week
to make
or two.
a Canadian. Right.
Okay.
Because that was my other thing too. It's like, well, if these people are criminal aliens and they don't have any rights and we don't care, like, why are we bothering then? Just shoot them on fucking sight and throw them in a hole in the ground. Who cares? They don't have rights, right? I know it's the extreme bullshit argumenting thing that I do, but it's like, if you really don't care, like, why do you draw that line? Why do we draw this distinction between, well, let's throw them in a box and then throw them into some gulag in El Salvador because that's the right thing to do? Just shoot them on sight. Who cares? If we're not going to bother with due process, if they're not real human beings and don't have rights anyway, it's not a crime to kill them, obviously.
I mean, there's been a good bit of like kind of expedited extraditions.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, it's just like, that's the problem with this whole thing to me. It's like, the logic, they're like, where the people who are super pro deportation, where they draw this line. Like, we could treat these people like shit. We could throw them in boxes. We don't have to bother making sure that they're the correct people that we think they are. We just, they look right so that we can treat them this way. But
there's been some like schism and I think the administration has backed off and said that they weren't going to focus as much on like service workers,
and
farmers, yeah.
Right? Because because they're going to. What did Trump say? Quote: "We're going to put the responsibility on the owners."
Oh, I did read that.
Jesus Christ! I mean, is it a Freudian slip or what? What are we talking about here? Like, is it basically this is acknowledgement of these alien farm workers or slaves? Really?
We have that to an extent. I mean, as an employer, aren't you? They're supposed to do like the e-verify, et cetera, or whatever, or at least verify they have a green card to be working. Or work
the implication that Trump was making is that your property, make sure your property's not doing things that they're not supposed to. That was the implication of that statement from Trump. Is I'm sorry, let me back off the slave jokes for just a second. The implication of the statement was that if you own a farm and you have a bunch of migrant workers that come work your farm, you're responsible for their actions. So don't hire
their actions or their. I thought it was just kind of like their status.
Right. No, as long as they're not a problem, you can keep them. That was my takeaway from the statement. And so, which basically says, keep your property or keep your slaves in line, and we'll let you keep them. That's what I took from that statement.
Nah, I didn't put a whole lot of thought into it. I did read about that, and I was like, oh, that's weird.
Right. Like I said, it might have been a Freudian slip. So, I mean, keep your employees in line if we're going to be more generous about it. Keep your illegally underpaid employees. Well, probably not illegally. They're probably making at least minimum wage, but, keep your keep your illegal employees under control, and we'll let you keep them.
I don't think they get hourly. I think a lot of I really like some of the
By the
farm
bushel,
workers.
by the whatever,
it's
yeah.
basically by the bushel. By the bushel.
You know, I'm a big fan of that. I've always been a production dominated. Again, there are exceptions to the rule, but if it's how does it make any sense if you can do 5 bushels an hour and I can do 2 bushels an hour and we make the same money?
All right.
Like that disincentivizes. Like if you can make what you need to make and call it a day, then make what you need to make and call it a day.
But I think even some like close in the administration have kind of been against that as well. The kind of being less focused on farm workers, hotel workers, service workers, basically restaurant workers.
I mean,
that's where I feel like some of it's just kind of like low hanging fruit. Instead
Right.
of I've heard of a bunch of maybe not a bunch, but some cases of where they've just gone to Home Depot, which in the handful of Home Depots I've ever been to, I've never seen a group of Hispanics ever out just like waiting, looking for jobs. But maybe I get there at the wrong hours.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If I knew how to run a job site, I'd try it.
I'd say they're probably there early in the morning. Maybe that's what it is. Just
But
never catch them.
To reference it, so this big argument I had was over this. It's Backroom Knox, which again, I'm really confused. I thought he was, maybe they changed. Maybe it's a new person that's running it. It was something about Justin Jones. Apparently Justin Jones has, and I don't know when this was. Justin Jones, one of the Tennessee Three. There is he is described here as a violent and controversial Democratic member of the Tennessee House of Rep in District 52 in Nashville. He's now pushing legislation aimed at banning ICE and law enforcement officers from wearing masks during arrests.
I think I did read about that.
That's where this whole conversation that I got into with a bunch of the people in the comments became a thing. Like, one, I have some questions. When did he start pushing this? Because session's fucking over, and it's been over for a month and a half now.
I read about it recently as well, so I'm not sure if
Question
maybe
number
it never got
2.
introduced. Maybe he's just drafted it, and it's come out that he's going to...
Well, he's going to try to get question. Right, this leads into question number 2 because let's go back to the first sentence here. A violent and controversial Democratic member. So he ain't going to get Governor Lee to call a special session to get his shit passed, unless Governor Lee's for some reason on board with this, which I don't think he is. And so at best, he's going to introduce it in January of 2026. Which what happens with Democrats?
Are they out till then?
Yeah, it's a part-time gig. What happens when a Democrat introduces something in the Tennessee House?
Usually doesn't go anywhere.
Nothing.
Sometimes if it's good enough, the Republicans will
At
rewrite
best, it
as
gets
theirs.
stolen and renamed. Which the Republicans aren't going to steal and rename this one. So, what are we getting bent out of shape about? But anyway, it's like it's so quote. Ironically, Jones himself has been photographed wearing a mask while protesting in the video where he threw a cone at somebody. Which I mean, that's an assault, I guess. And then there's a picture of him in the State House in front of Nathan
Bedford
Forrest with a mask on, raising his fist in defiance for some reason. I don't know when that picture was taken. It kind of looks like some COVID-era shit, personally. But, whatever, he wears a mask when he protests, he does whatever. The question I have in this, true question is, was the masked protest while he was a sitting rep or before? I'm pretty sure it was before.
I heard about an incident, but before he became.
Right, I mean, there's a mugshot from when the incident happened, and, he looks
younger.
significantly younger than he does now. And so, again, to start off the argumentative conversation, like I do, I said, so his prior bad acts automatically makes this saga, which is the short form of the bill, a bad idea. So you did something bad in the past. There's no possibility that you have valuable or worthwhile ideas for the rest of time, right? And I said, I think it's a little crazy that a subsection of law enforcement could just roll up, not identify, and abduct people. I would assume most of you would shoot somebody who came up on you masked up trying to take someone from you. I know I would. And that was where it all teed off on like this whole thing. It's like they're not abducting anybody; they're doing their job. And then he goes on this whole like, well, Obama deported more people. It's like I don't fucking care. This this is one of those other things that we've talked about all the time that drives me crazy. Because I push back on whatever your idea is, I'm automatically on the other team. Because I mean, this guy's assumption in yelling at me about Obama deported more people is that I supported Obama. which I didn't.
Yeah, I don't think I'd have just been making a counterpoint in that this isn't a Republican thing. That
I didn't say it was a Republican thing either.
I've heard Obama called or referred to as like the deporter in chief or whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, anyways, everybody got a problem with the federal agent's job, yet nobody wants to take it up with Congress, which is who exactly made the damn laws. Now make that make sense. And it's like, well, there's a lot of reasons that are easy to make that make sense because we have a broken political system. The electoral system that we get to get people into these offices doesn't bring the best and brightest or the most representative of people. It brings the ones that can win the primary, because it goes on in another part of this conversation. Somebody says, somebody needs they need a primary Justin Jones to get him out of there because it's a national district and a Democrat always wins that district. And it's like, that's exactly the fucking problem. Because for Justin Jones to win that seat, all he had to do was be further left than the other people in his primary because the Democrat's going to win. And I said something like, much like almost every other district in the state of Tennessee,
being further left doesn't guarantee you.
It doesn't guarantee it, but in the new world order of things, it certainly gets you there. It's certainly more often the case that you win being further outside than further in the middle.
Think so?
I absolutely think so. I think that's why Marsha Blackburn wins, because she's a fucking lunatic. But all she had to do was win the Republican primary because the Democrat didn't matter. It's Tennessee. And so when you can go, like, they know it too. Go look at we can go pull some of the flyers out of the records.
Yeah, I guess I've read about incumbents basically being more afraid of, in primary wise, of someone further to the other side, or
further to the outside of their own party. Yeah. Right, because again, if I recall correctly, I could probably find some flyers. I've got stacks here floating around here somewhere. Marsha Blackburn, whoever was the most legitimate candidate that was primarying her, Marsha kept characterizing them as a Democrat. Like they that's the rhino thing. That's the whole point of the derogatory phrase of rhino. So you're not really a Republican. You're just using Republicans so you can win races because Democrats don't win here. Like, watch how hard Larson gets called a rhino here in about 6 months. When Betsy Henderson's entire campaign is going to be 1,000%. Larson J is not a Republican. He is absolutely a rhino. That's going to be her entire campaign. Watch it happen. Because Betsy Henderson and Eric Wader, I don't know officially if she's on Team Eric or not, but I'm guessing that's going to be his candidate for Knox County Mayor. They are smart enough to understand the way the politics work, and you just have to win the primary. And if you are further to the right in a Republican primary, all you have to do is make that person seem like a Democrat. Which is that's what they're going to do to Larson. Just it's going to be easy. And so that's the same thing. That's how Justin wins. Justin wins because we don't have competitive general elections in the state of Tennessee. We only have competitive primaries. And more people like Justin would win more often in Democratic districts if we didn't have open primaries.
I mean, he seems kind of like the representative that would actually go out and see people more often. Is more, I guess.
I don't know shit about him. Like, I don't know.
I don't know the district and how easly he won, or whatever.
I don't know how
many people ran against him, etc.
Right. I don't mean anything at all by this, but like from the way he presents, he is a state version of Amelia Parker to me. He's a far left Democratic socialist in a red state where everything around them is at least center, if not right of center. And so they're the furthest left of the left in these different areas. And Amelia gets out there and she hits the streets and does her things. I'm not trying to disparage either one in the conversation, but I think both the Justins and are very much in the Amelia Parker camp, where they are the and even the Gloria Johnson thing. Why do I always say that I think Gloria Johnson has the best job in government?
Yeah.
You don't remember? I say it all the time.
I said I know why.
Okay. I mean, it's the easiest job because you don't have, like, the accomplishment is not the point. You doing anything, you getting anything passed is not the point. You got elected to get there, to be there, to make a ruckus, to piss people off, to annoy the state.
I'd like to think people, have some kind of expectations that they at least got something done.
No, because if you're voting for a Democrat in a state house In a state house race, you are voting for somebody who is not going to win. They're going to win the race that you're voting for them in because of the district you're in, maybe, but they're not going to win anything in the state house. If you're even like either, well, I'm sorry, let me take that back. You're either voting because the D's next to their name and that's what you vote for when you go to vote, or if you're actually engaged and understand what's going on, you're voting for somebody to go up there. Like I would argue that people that are active, super active Democrats in Knox County love Gloria Johnson, not because she accomplished anything, but because she makes it stink. She puts it on blast. She makes it. She forces the issue to at least have an explanation from the Republicans, because every time they explain themselves, it's never good.
Yeah. And
for the Democrats in and around the state, who already have a poor opinion of a spiky hair Lamberth or whatever, they already have a poor opinion of him. And when he says something stupid, they go, "Look, I told you he was stupid." For the people that support Lamberth or just vote for ours, they're like, "Whatever, we don't care." And that's why they keep winning and stuff like that. But that's the job. And like as a Democrat, you feel like, hey, at least somebody's up there making it known that not all of us are okay with this. That's a win when you're a super minority party in a state.
Yeah.
If you're a modicum of engaged in the process, if you're just, again, like if you just vote R and vote D and that's all that matters, and then you don't care, you don't know anything, it doesn't matter. You might go into the Democrat, you might see something, Gloria in the news or something, be like, I think I voted for her, and then not really know what's going on. But which is probably the majority of the electorate on both sides.
Yeah,
I'd say probably more Democrats as a percentage of their existence in Tennessee are more informed and engaged than the Republicans are. But
I'd say like the minority party in any area probably has some use in that they're the ones pointing out some of like the kind of more extreme laws. And be like, hey, do you guys know that this just got passed or whatever?
Yeah.
Or the controlling party's just kind of able to kind of like, blow a lot of stuff through. Nobody's really paying attention.
For example, well, actually, I bet a bunch of Democrats voted. I don't actually. I'm going to leave. I don't want this on the record. Never mind. Yeah. I'm not going to do that one. We can talk about the hemp one and how dumb they are on that one, but I'm going to leave the new tobacco law.
Beat that one to death.
The new tobacco law is some bullshit as well. The new vape portion of the tobacco law, but I can't plead ignorance if I go on the record and understanding. So I don't understand it at all. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I as a United States citizen who has the rights to votes and all those things like that, I do not approve of our heroes in law enforcement hiding their faces. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think it's okay. And again, I'm on board with deportations. I get it. It makes sense to me. I'm not saying we shouldn't be deporting people. I'm not saying we shouldn't have some better border control and stuff like that. That's not my argument here. But if we're going to do it, we need to have at least some honor in how we're doing it.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, there's the other side too. It's like, and this is a broader thing outside of this, is like the continued militarization of our police departments is redonkulous. These ICE guys are showing up in tactical vests and all that. It's like, what are we doing? Like, we don't.
Supposedly they're supposed to be going after the worst of the worst. And I think that's what split some people on it when they started seeing, I kind of feel that they've kind of picked on some low hanging fruits, like going to immigrant neighborhoods where some people I've heard have been picked up just because they heard them like overspeaking,
right?
Overhearing them speaking, a different language. Where a few of those people were actually citizens. They just happen to be from Puerto Rico or whatever, and their native tongue is Spanish.
Right, because that's like profiling to a T.
A bit.
Oh no, you speak a foreign language. You must be foreign. So, I don't know. I'm done. I don't know. I'm done with it. I did share that one with you. The new law passed and went into effect. So, I mean, it's the 1st of July, so a bunch of new laws passed. I haven't actually paid attention except for the couple that really
read through the list that the local news put up. Some of them I remember hearing about.
And Bobby Bonilla Day was this week. Apparently, it's July 1st every year is when Bobby Bonilla gets $1.193 million because he's still under contract with the
Mets. I don't know why I had it in my head that it was Mr. Bonds.
Yeah. I didn't send it to you to as a haha. I sent it to you as a. Was that who I said? I can't remember. I can't remember who said what.
I think you did say.
I might have said Bobby Bonds, too. No, not Bobby Bonilla. I don't remember. Okay, so WBIR shared Tennessee's Peace Act penalizes intimidation, broadens police powers, and tightens rules around pamphlets. I do remember hearing about some of this as it was going through, and it, you know,
we talked about the flyering.
Right, I remember the flyering happening, and I remember really wanting to see the flyers, and I couldn't get I couldn't find an image of the flyer.
I think we pulled one up.
Did
that
we?
was going around, yeah. Because it was in Knox County, I think that there was some that were getting handed out.
Listen, bottom line, long story short here, is there's a lot of I don't know. One thing I learned recently is there on that Stanford guy I was telling you about last week.
Refresh my memory.
Maplehurst, the Maplehurst neighborhood.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That was named for the Maplehurst Mansion. Was built by this Stanford fella who was a prominent business guy in Knoxville. His son ended up being a Supreme Court justice. Blah blah blah. He wrote the majority decision on a case that was one of those watershed cases that basically changed everything. And it was basically, I can't remember what amendment it was in reference to, but essentially up to I think the most recent one was 1970 something. But the Bill of Rights prior to this decision only applied to federal law. Many states have a more or less matching version of a Bill of Rights in their state constitutions, and so that kind of got it there anyway. But at least as the legal interpretation was by precedent before this decision, the First Amendment only applied to federal law enforcement or federal laws or federal buildings or federal activities and stuff like that. And the decision said no, that it would include state governments and state law enforcement, and state individuals are also included in the protections of the Bill of Rights from state government and local governments as well as the federal government.
So I think some of those, I guess, the federal law, freedom of speech, basically, that a state couldn't have an opposing law because
it's the state. Well, but the way, and that was one of the things that's weird about it. But the Bill of Rights is that when they say the state in the Bill of Rights or in the Constitution, that is referencing the United States is the state in question. Right. It's not referencing the individual states.
I mean, if there was a state law against something that contradicts federal law and the Bill of Rights, etc.
Yes, now, but not then.
Okay, it wouldn't supersede.
Right.
Okay.
And so
some of those didn't come into effect until the late '60s,
right. And
some of the Civil Rights Acts and whatnot.
Right. And one of the things that I think that was essentially what the decision basically set up the supremacy clause, saying that all laws, no matter what the jurisdiction, have to be within the United States Constitution. Anyway, so either way, me being an idiot and thinking the First Amendment applied to everybody all the time from the beginning of the United States, to the reality of the First Amendment didn't actually officially apply to everybody in the United States, regardless of what state they were in, until 1890 something or whenever this actually finished coming, whenever this decision came down and started this process.
Yeah.
So this new, again, what is it called? The Peace Act by the state of Tennessee makes it illegal for a person to refuse to provide their name to law enforcement if they are detained. And it also adds penalties for littering unsolicited flyers. And that's the unsolicited flyer things in direct reference to this neo-Nazi, anti-Semitic, whatever thing that was going around, where they were dumping flyers on synagogue doorsteps and people's houses or whatever it is. And it's like, I was joking with lawyer Jamie. I was like, hey, you want to, here in a couple weeks, or well, I guess we have to wait a year because I'm in the county, but here in about a year, when some door knocker comes by and I don't answer the door and they hang something on my door tag, you want to help me go after candidate X for breaking this new law in the state of Tennessee with me?
I don't think it's just for unsolicited flyers. I think there are more things to it.
I mean,
I could be wrong, but I thought it was more aimed at essentially offensive flyers.
We got a new hyperlink. Go back to other laws here in a second. Lawmakers said the legislation stemmed from the neo-Nazi marches in downtown Knoxville and targeted synagogue and some introducers. The proposal was introduced by Mr. Lamberth, his spiky hair himself. It added new annotations to previous laws, and Longmire said the goal of the bill was to protect First Amendment rights but discourage discrimination. Part of the law makes it a Class A misdemeanor to litter or trespass. One example of litter given in the law is leaving unsolicited flyers on a public or private property, which could describe pamphlets left by hate groups or political flyers, both of which have been left outside doorsteps in Tennessee. The bill said that litter cannot be placed without permission.
Okay, so maybe it is pretty broad.
So I'm going to find somebody. If anybody lives in Portland, Tennessee, shoot me an email when Mr. Lamberth or his campaign puts something on your doorstep. Let's go.
I didn't ask for this.
Yep. Goddamn right I didn't ask for it.
Well, I think it's different because, I mean, a lot of those get mailed out. So they're actual mailers going.
Right. Mailers are different because it's paid for.
Right.
They paid to put it in your mailbox. In late 2023, people in Knoxville woke up to anti-Semitic flyers on their properties bearing the logo of a hate group known for its virulity, hateful online content, similar hate-filled and absurd flyers were left in national neighborhoods, blah, blah, blah. The Supreme Court has, that's not coming back. I mean, I don't think that's going to pass state Supreme Court, let alone federal Supreme Court. On engaging with law enforcement, another part of the bill said that if a law enforcement suspects a person of committing a crime and asks for their name, they will need to give it to them. If anyone who gives a false or fictitious name, it would become a Class C misdemeanor. This would apply if law enforcement arrests or detains someone whom a person knows and they refuse to provide the name of that known person. So if I get if I'm detained, not arrested, not processed, just detained, and they're asking me questions, and I refuse to give them my name, that's now a Class C misdemeanor. If I read that last sentence right, not only is it a Class C misdemeanor for me, but if they ask you what my name is and you won't tell them my name, that's a Class C misdemeanor for you.
Someone whom a person knows.
The law also applies if law enforcement arrests or detains someone who a person knows, so they'll grab you and say, what's his name? And you don't give them my name, that's a Class C misdemeanor too. A Class C misdemeanor comes with a penalty up to 30 days in jail and a fine up to $50. Another section of the law said a person intentionally comes within 25 feet of a law enforcement officer legally engaged in the execution of their duties after the officer has told them to step back is a Class B. Class B can get 6 months in jail and $500 fine. The amendment specifically narrowed the bill down to active crime scene, traffic stops, or public safety threats. That doesn't narrow it down at all. Police would also be given more power to approach and possibly arrest people. The bill would specifically say that police have probable cause to believe a person has committed an offense, regardless of whether an offense was committed in their presence. Which, I don't know. I mean, I would assume that already exists. Hey, I'm pretty sure Sam shot somebody. Like, if there's any corroboration to my version of the story, they didn't see it.
Right.
They're going to.
If they have a witness that says, I saw somebody wearing, brown shoes and a red top, they see someone, I think they can actually detain them and kind of investigate from there. It's like, hey, you're half a block from where something that just happened like 3 minutes ago, and you fit the description.
Which I'm going to get a Class C misdemeanor if I get.
I wondered if we had the ID law. I don't know how many, but I think a number of other states have it to where it is. If you get pulled over and they're basically, hey, let me see your driver's license. And you're like, I don't have to identify myself. They're like, actually, you did. Like, I pulled you over for this. I need to see your ID. I need to identify you.
I don't know. It bothers me. Like, I get it. I get it from both sides, but I would err on the side of, yeah, I guess you don't have to tell me. That's fucking.
I'm sure there's times that it can be stretched, but when done right, it's supposed to be in the auspice of.
I don't know. Like, again, it's one of those
suspected
things
of criminal crime or.
We're joking on my last statement because I didn't know the Bill of Rights didn't apply to states and local municipalities until recently. Anyway, but I grew up believing that the United States criminal system worked on their job to prove your guilt, not your job to hand it to them.
Right.
I thought we had a Fifth Amendment. I thought the burden was on the state to prove that I did something. And I think underneath that proof of doing something would be proving who I am. We have witnesses that say, Seth killed a guy. Well, my name's not Seth. I don't know what you're talking about. It's your job to prove that I am Seth. It's not my job to give it to you. I guess that's the play then. I'll just plead the Fifth. What's your name? Plead the fifth. I mean,
I've seen
realistically,
people do that, and they basically like take you back to the station, or I think they actually have like mobile fingerprint scanners. And if you're in the system, your name will come up from
which
that.
I'm in the motherfucking system. I'm in there like 57 times. They've got my fingerprints like 2 weeks ago. Which doesn't make it practically speaking, why do I need to have fingerprints to get a liquor license? Like,
I don't know the reasoning behind it.
like, it's to prove who I am, I guess, or to prove that when I filled out the paperwork and I said who I was, that is who I am.
Yeah,
and
it could
so
be
if
like a
I have-
liability thing.
Right,
You didn't
'cause-
just make up a name to get a license on it.
Or well, it's just like I had a liquor license somewhere else and it got taken away because I was serving 12-year-olds or something like that, and I applied to get a new liquor license under a false identity. When I got arrested for serving 12-year-olds, they're going to have my fingerprints on file, and so now if I'm trying to open a new business under an assumed name, that's the way to prove that I am me.
Yeah.
But why? You don't need the fingerprints anymore. It would be illegal for me to tell the officer, or to tell the it's illegal for me to tell the state that my name's not my name. Like, it's now okay.
It wasn't until now. And even then, that's a Class C. You could maybe get up to 30 days in jail or a $50 fine.
Anyway, here's a click through link to some other laws that take effect. Sorry now. I don't know. Like, I just like it doesn't. It just seems like it's just adding more. Just like it continues, just more every day, every session. More police powers, more of this, less individual rights. And these are Republicans, by the way. Just to make sure we all remember what Republicans at least say on their flyers that they stand for is like individual freedom, freedom from, overburdensome regulations, all that stuff, like all that freedom that they tell us about, that then they make laws like this, which is like, well, except for.
Well, I think some of these kind of come down almost from like kind of national organizations, because you see a number of like similar laws that go from like state to state to state.
They do.
They're almost identical, and it's kind of like, oh, well, they passed this. And they're like, oh,
right, which I'm
either
very excited.
That's a good idea, or they're all just kind of getting on board together.
I'm very interested to see the fallout of the continued fallout of the Greg Abbott vetoing the hemp ban in Texas.
Yeah, I think we talked about that a little bit last week.
Because again, but like you said, very often a lot of, especially similar state governments, will kind of take each other's lead on stuff.
Yeah,
and so Texas, being one of the big boys in the Republican games by state law stuff, a lot of Republican states look to Texas, and this move on Texas's part, I'm curious how that's going to influence other red states.
I saw something that it was like his assistant that was kind of hinting at that he was maybe going to propose some kind of like full legalization.
I mean, he's got right. He's calling a special session on it.
I think they have some form of medical currently. I thought I saw that in the article that talked about him vetoing this.
I'm going to give Joe credit. Joe's had Abbott on the show, and I'm sure, like, I don't know how Joe does it, but like, there's been, for all intents and purposes, like, it has been negligible how much less Joe smokes weed than he did when he was in California. Now that he's in Texas,
you would think he can't do it as openly.
Yeah, no. It's also Texas, where you don't go kicking people's doors unless you're really fucking sure what you're doing.
Maybe.
And even that, it's also Joe Rogan. You don't go kicking his door in for fucking anything if you don't have to. Like, unless you want that, like I couldn't imagine anybody.
Yeah, I think I've read like a
would
lot of
want
his
to be the
security,
guy
like
that
former SEALs, etc.
Not even that, but just like I couldn't imagine anybody like, especially even in a non-Republican state, even back when he was in California, anybody in the political law enforcement field wanted to be the guy that arrested Rogan. I'm sure there's a handful of people out there, but not many. Anyway, other laws taking effect. Starting July 1, 177 new laws. Yes. Republicans, the self-reliance, the take care of your own shit, we don't need it in any state. 177 new laws. The universal school vouchers, immigration reform, special session, blah, blah, blah. Criminal justice, child care, foster care. Below are a dozen of the laws 10 News has highlighted throughout the legislative session, along with several others. If you'd like to look at the laws passed, you can click. If you want to click a full list, you can click here. We'll skip that. We'll see what the WAR thinks. House Bill number 45, child abuse involving injury raised to a Class E felony. The new law increases the penalty for child abuse involving children between 9 and 17 from a Class A misdemeanor to a Class E felony. Okay. Kick that one up, make it worse. Yes, it's a bigger deal. That one doesn't bother me. What do you think about that one?
Sounds good to me.
You hurt kids, it's a felony. I'm okay.
Hey, I don't think that should be a misdemeanor. I don't care if it's even the most severe misdemeanor.
I don't know. Let's see.
It should be like a spectrum argument on it.
Well, it's child abuse involving children 9 to 17. So under 9 was probably already a felony.
Possibly, yeah.
I don't know. I'll just leave that one alone. House Bill 72, mandatory minimums for underage hemp stairs. That is a way more complicated law than mandatory minimum for sales. Get fucked. Fuck you, WBIR, for your... Let's see what they say. I'm sorry. The Tennessee legislature passed a bill that imposes tougher penalties on anyone who knowingly sells or distributes hemp-derived cannabinoid products to someone under 21. Under current law, it's already illegal to sell or give products containing hemp-derived cannabinoids, such as Delta-8 THC, to anyone under 21. It's also an offense to help someone under 21 buy or attempt to buy these products. The new law strengthens those penalties by requiring offenders to serve at least 48 consecutive hours in county jail with a maximum sentence of 11 months, 29 days. The law includes new rules for retail. So 4 or 5 paragraphs, all 4 of them, 3 of them on the underage part of it, 1 of them on we're murdering the industry.
Was it all one bill?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if they split it up whatsoever.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, yeah, I'll let me revert to my prior statement. Fuck you, WBAR. This is a complete mischaracterization of what the law is. Is it untrue? No. Yes, they have raised the penalties for selling for under 21. But what they did was destroy the industry. What we know as hemp law in Tennessee is now fucked. That is what the law was. Like that. This fourth paragraph, the law also includes new rules for retailers. It's a violation. I mean, even that one, it's a violation for a retailer to knowingly allow an underage employee to access, handle, or sell these products. So, yeah. So this whole thing is wrong. Unlawful for photography, House Bill 99. There are now tougher penalties for secretive, non-consensual photography, especially where intimate or exploitative, and make sexual offender registry mandatory for these offenders. Under present law, it is a crime to knowingly take a photo of someone without prior consent or a parent or guardian's consent if the person is a minor. If the image would offend or embarrass the person, or if the photo focuses on the person's intimate area, would be considered offensive or embarrassing and was taken for the sexual arousal or gratification of the person taking it. Violating this would be classified as a Class A misdemeanor. However, this new law raises it to an E felony. The new law also expands penalties for sharing photos involving minors under 13, enhancing from a Class E to a Class D felony. Additionally, the law expands the offense to include cases where the victim is under 13 or where the offender used a position of trust, authority, or disciplinary power, such as legal, professional, or occupational role. I don't know. Any thoughts?
I thought there was something nationally, essentially just kind of like revenge porn or whatever.
Right, but I don't know. Well,
this is going to other things as well, but I think it's also supposed to encompass the growing issue of revenge.
Given the depth of how much I understand the hemp law and how little they covered it, I don't know how to I'm concerned about the continued conversation of any of these listed because the way they represented the hemp one was extremely inaccurate. So I'm assuming this one is not particularly accurate either. Because it does I don't know if we're at the park and I'm taking pictures at the park and I get a picture of the kid and that's playing at the park. Is that a crime?
Depends on the circumstance. Did you take it for your own gratification, or is it something that would embarrass that other person?
I don't know. He's taking a picture of the flower, and the kid jumped off the swing, and his junk was right in the middle of the frame when I clicked the shot.
What if this would a cup is like viral videos of people like falling down or whatever. Like that's embarrassed me. You caught me slipping on the boat dock out of the lake.
I feel like there's no way constitutionally to take this on in a public setting. Like if I come up like like how do you do you have no right to privacy. Like that's like they talk like that's why KPD
in public places, yeah.
That's why KPD gets to put their camera system up, and I don't get to complain about it because I don't have a right to privacy here. It's like, well, you're right, I don't have a right to privacy, but I still have a right to complain about what my tax dollars are doing, and if I'm okay with my tax dollars being spent on getting spied on. But that's a thing. It's not clear. Maybe it is only in private property. Like if I agree, if I'm a foster parent and I take a foster child into my home and I'm taking pictures and then trading or selling those pictures to other people, yeah, it's gross. You ought to get, what I like to say, hung by your toenails from the flagpole. 103, foster care extension. The law extends the foster care program services to young adults as old as 23 to support their transition from state custody into adulthood. Yeah, okay. I'm cool with that, I guess. Wineries are exempt from liquor by the drink tax. The law exempts the sale of wine at a winery or farm where wine production is made from the state liquor by the drink tax. The law passed 77-15 with 3 no votes, or for 3 non-voting. The Senate passed the bill 28-0. According to the fiscal note, the state will lose an estimated $368,000 in revenue. Okay, not sure how I feel about that one. Laser pointers, 191. The Republican-backed law makes it a Class B misdemeanor to knowingly activate and point a laser pointer or another device utilizing a laser beam at a person operating an automobile, boat, aircraft, or other motor vehicle.
I thought that was already like a federal FAA thing.
The FAA told WBIR that lasers are increasingly being pointed towards aircraft, especially in Tennessee. Like, what are we talking about? Like from the ground? Like I'm down here and I'm pointing a laser pointer at a
yeah. It's a freaking laser, man. They go a long distance.
They don't go to the fucking moon.
Yeah, probably not. But they'll go up 15, 20,000 feet. I guess no problem.
But what's what potential hazard is it to a pilot if I'm pointing it's going to hit the bottom of the whatever? It doesn't matter. If there's
from the right angle, you can blind somebody.
If there's true danger, then I guess it's okay. Organized retail crime, Bill number 207. The new law expands the offense of organized retail crime to include using an online marketplace or social media platform to sell, barter, or trade stolen merchandise, tampering with anti-shoplifting devices, interfering with fire alarms during theft, or trying to return stolen merchandise to a store using credit card skimmers, or having more than 10 access devices used to obtain money, goods, services, or other things of value.
Or access devices.
I have a lot of questions on this one. The new law expands the offense of organized retail crime. So organized retail crime already exists, so it expands it, adding new things that are counted as organized retail crime.
And I guess maybe helping somebody out by pulling a fire alarm while somebody else is able to run out unnoticed.
Yeah. Yeah, stuff your shirt full of shit, pull the fire alarm, run out the fire escape. House Bill 219, land purchased by foreigners. 219 says the law requires foreign persons who obtain agricultural land in the state to report the acquisition to the Commissioner of Agriculture. People who acquire this are already required to report it to the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture. The Commissioner of Agriculture must notify the State Attorney General of foreign persons' failure to file a copy of said report. The AG then can impose a civil penalty not to exceed 20% of the fair market value of the interest of the land and bring suit to collect a civil penalty thereof. Okay. So persons are buying Tennessee agricultural land, reporting it to the federal Department of Agriculture, but not reporting it to the state. Gives the state DA's office the ability to sue you for not filing said paperwork. I'm sure there's some sort of fee, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
House Bill 371, court-ordered cognitive behavioral training. Under this new law, anyone convicted of a Class A misdemeanor in General Sessions Court will be required to pay for and complete a cognitive behavioral training course. The offender will have to provide proof that they completed the course to the court. If they fail to do so, they can be punished for up to 10 years in jail.
10 days.
10 days in jail, sorry. The training course will have to be available to be completed on... the training courses will have to be available to be completed online, be available in languages other than English, cost the offender no more than $100, and offer payment options and grading feedback or guidance upon completion. The law does not include a definition of what cognitive behavioral training course is or what the offender is expected to learn in the class. Okay. Lots of questions on that one. House Bill 485, hybrid learning during extreme weather. The new law allows school districts and public charter schools to use up to 4 days of their required 180 of classroom instruction via hybrid learning in the event of dangerous or extreme weather conditions or an emergency. Boo. So instead of a snow day, they can do an online day.
Okay.
Which was fucking miserable. That was the fucking worst. That was the worst. That was the absolute worst of all the COVID shit. When they were supposed to be doing online stuff. Now, the little one was in 3rd and 4th grade when that was going down. Mm-hmm. 3rd grade, online classroom. So basically a teacher in front of a bunch of kids in Zoom. No good. Very bad. Very, very bad. Now, granted, they hadn't prepared for it. There wasn't a way they didn't really have systems set up. This was on the fly. I would assume that most teachers aren't building curricula to do a hybrid class or to do an online course.
Yeah, it's something kind of hard to anticipate. It's
right.
Like, I need to have this PowerPoint ready in case there's snow next week or whatever.
Who the F knows what okay, so what that sounds like to me, here's how I believe that's gonna work in Knox County schools. Mr. Ryswick, you're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong. It's just not it's just 4 extra snow days. So like 2 years ago when we had that big storm and we lost a whole week and we lost some other days and we had that wind day that we talked about with Ryan when he was here.
Right.
That was all in the same year. They took away some half days and one Monday that was supposed to be off to make sure they built in a couple of extra days in case we got more snow or something like that as the rest of that semester finished out. Now they just get 4 extra snow days. And what I'm going to do in my class when I'm teaching my hybrid class, because instead of having a day off, we're going to have a hybrid day. We're going to watch Little Mermaid. Cartoon, not live action.
All right.
Because we're going to, the good one. But I'm saying, like, that's what, like, there's nothing explicit that says they, like, basically treat it like it's a substitute. You get a substitute teacher this day. What do? We watch a movie in class. That's how I would use it if I were a teacher.
That wouldn't go against their inclement weather days or whatever.
Right. It'd be like instead of using a snow day, we're going to use a hybrid day, which says, "Hey kids, you got to get up and you got to get on your computer when class starts." And then, hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more. You don't have to do anything today, teachers. Just be there, talk to your kids. You don't have to try to actually teach a lesson. Just like
4 days doesn't seem like a lot. It sounds like it may be just kind of helping out. We had all the floods last year.
No, I mean, I get it. Like, it's just, I just assume that will. It's just not going to be treated. It's not going to be an actual instructional day. If the goal of the state of Tennessee is to have 180 instructional days, they now have 176.
Potentially,
yeah. I mean, no, they have. I mean, I don't know, because if I'm a local jurisdiction and I've got, like, I'd use them when I can. Let the kids have the day off. The teachers have the day off. Like, they don't use the 180 days any fucking way. That's what I get pissed off about all the time anyway.
Right.
Let's just not do the half day at the end of the year. Let's just not do the half week at the end of the year. And let's do 176 days, but fucking use them. Like, I will never get out. Like, that was one of the most fucking pissy things that I've ever had to deal with in my life is when we went in and had a sit down. I can't remember what the fucking sit down was for, but it was speech pathology for the younger one. There was our annual review, whether we needed to pick back up and do it or whether we thought he was still good, which we think he's still good and whatever. But it was like coming up to one of those half days, and we were like, so you guys take attendance tomorrow or not? And they did this number. Yes. And then they shook their head no. Real obnoxious like. And so it's like, okay, so you acknowledge the fact that you don't want the kids, like, we really want to see the kids today. We can't wait to see your kids tomorrow. And they keep shaking their head no at everything they say. They say the yes words, but they make the no motions.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is so stupid. This is just stupid. To just tell the kids they don't have to come to school. Tell me that I don't have to come to school. Don't sit here and play this stupid game.
I think I remember getting that impression back in like middle school or whatever. When they used to do like the half day before like Thanksgiving or whatever.
Right. You got to be here today. You got to come to school tomorrow. It's important that you're here tomorrow. And the whole time they're shaking their head no. Or they wrote on the board like it's like some weird like sci-fi movie. They wrote on the board, don't come to school tomorrow. But while they're writing it, they're saying you have to be here tomorrow.
Right.
Like their cameras are watching and they have to put on the show because Ryswick is in the central office. We gotta sneak one by the administration. Everybody knows what everybody's doing, but it's this stupid game we have to play, and it's fucking dumb. Bill number 572, post-birth warning signs information. Under the new... okay, hold on. Let me make sure I read this right. Under this new law, all hospitals and birthing centers will be required to provide new mothers and their families with post-birth warning signs, including symptoms and resources before they are discharged from the hospital. It also requires the Department of Health to provide information to hospitals and birthing centers and post it on Department of Health website. What are post-birth warning signs?
I'm not sure.
I was really scared this was going to be some weird abortion thing. Like, hospitals were going to have to be like, hey, this person just gave birth. We can tell by these signs or whatever, but we don't see a baby anywhere.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a reporting thing, but that they were providing new mothers and their families with post-birth warning signs. Okay. 641.
It could be kind of like just to kind of stop some of the hypochondriacs of like a first-time parents.
I mean, they give you a mountain. They give you a fucking novel when you come out of there.
Do you? I don't.
Tons of stuff. Like contacts for all sorts. Like, I mean, I got a subpoena because we were unmarried when we had the kid, and so they automatically filed a child support case in her for her.
Yeah.
And she had, like, I got a subpoena and she got a document that had to relinquish the subpoena or whatever, like relinquish her claim to whatever. I don't remember what it was. Among a million other forms and papers and all that kind of stuff. The Savannah Grace Copeland Act, number 641, will provide over $4 million annually to child advocacy centers that offer critical services to child victims of abuse and neglect across the state. It also requires funding for the child advocacy centers in each judicial district to be increased by 75% whenever there is an increase in funding by the Department of Child Services. It also mandates an increase of base salaries. Starting this year, each center's contract will be increased by a base amount of $127,855,098, and each contract labeled as forensic child interviewer will be increased to a base amount of $85,000. This law was named in honor of Savannah Copeland, a 13-year-old Powell girl who died in October after being stabbed to death by a 15-year-old. Number 825, Teen Social Media and Internet Safety Act. This ruined all my porn. Part of this new law goes into effect July 1st. The other goes into effect Jan 1. Beginning in 25-26 school year, the new law requires that each school district... Oh, this isn't the one that ruined porn. That was last year. Beginning in 25-26 school year, the law requires each school district and public charter school to prohibit students from accessing social media through the use of internet access provided by the school. By the next year, the Department of Ed must develop a social media internet safety curriculum for students.
I mean, like you couldn't be at school on their Wi-Fi and then go to social media. But it's okay if you're using your own cell plan.
I guess. Well, and then followed by House Bill 932, Tennessee schools are required to enforce stricter cell phone policies. All public schools and charters will need to adopt policies that restrict the use of wireless communication devices by students in the classroom. This includes cell phones, tablets, computers, smartwatches, and gaming devices. Before the law takes effect, each public school is required to have a disciplinary policy that allows teachers to take away students' phones during class if it causes distraction. Starting July 1, teachers are allowed to take away a student's cell phone, tablet, etc. during class if it violates a school's device policy. For 25-26 school year and beyond, the bill requires each local board to have a whatever. Okay. 973, statute of limitations on child sex abuse. The law extends the legs, whatever. 1025, driving privilege suspended for minors convicted for harassment or cyberbullying. You can lose the right to drive as a kid.
Yeah, I remember when that one got passed.
1133, nuclear energy sales tax. New law expands tax provision for nuclear energy production, allowing nuclear facilities to qualify for pollution control tax credits, blah, blah, blah. 1314, threats of mass violence or doxing. The law creates more severe penalties for people who threaten mass violence online and new penalties against people who post other people's addresses and phone numbers on public websites. Education Freedom Scholarship Act. We already know what that one is. Tennessee criminalizes hiding undocumented people from law enforcement. The law made several changes to the state's existing laws around human trafficking, creating the offense of human smuggling, a Class E felony that would be treated the same as other human trafficking offenses. People who hide or transport at least 10 adults or 5 minors who are in the country illegally for commercial advantage or private financial gain would commit human smuggling. So if you own an apartment complex and you lease to undocumented immigrants, you could be criminalized by this law.
Yeah.
Because you were profiting from them. That's not the intent. Or the other one, that like a bunch of churches are pissed off about this one.
I think I did see that.
Because if you do some sort of, like Fish Pantry, for example, they don't really profit, I guess, but they do raise money to support people who need food. And some of those people who need food might be illegal. If more than 10 of them or more than 5 of them are kids that are getting taken care of by this service, they may be they may be on the hook for that law. Increased required daily physical activity for elementary students. Hell yeah, get them out there. Make them run. Senate Bill 28, harassment. This law expands the criminal offense of harassment to include in-person communication. Okay. Senate Bill 41, consumer protections. The new law sets rules for how telecommunications and internet service providers can bill customers after they've terminated their service agreement. I don't know about that one. Senate Bill 228, Lester Act. This law, known as the Law Enforcement Safer Tennessee Electronic Registration Act, requires law enforcement to accept proof of vehicle registration in electronic format. I mean, I don't. So
I know you can get like my mom was actually telling me about. There's some new app that you can store your license on, and I was like, I can pull it out of my wallet faster than I could pull it up on my phone.
I can just take a picture of it. But like, I mean, your Apple Wallet, like the Apple Wallet on your phone, I've got my car insurance my proof of car insurance is on there.
Yeah. I've even heard of people having like their vehicle registration somehow on their phone. I'm not sure how that's what it mentions. Right. Yeah. It's basically forcing the police to be able to take it. I guess before they'd be like, "No, I need the piece of paper."
Right.
Or I guess they could say that. I don't know.
Right, and that's it's making it not acceptable.
Yeah. I do remember reading about the.
I glitched there. My bad. Glitched there again. So, you do remember reading about
the one that had to do with the consumer protections. It had to do with, I don't know if it was necessarily cell phone contracts. I don't know, that mentioned like certain specific areas, but it had to do with if you canceled it before the first half of the month, they couldn't charge you for the remainder of the month. It's trying to make it easier for, as I'm sure a lot of people have tried to cancel any kind of contract. You've got to jump through so many hoops, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, you got to pay out the rest of your contract." To where I'm assuming it would be like if you had like a yearly contract that they also, if you did it before like the 6th month or whatever, that they couldn't charge you for the rest of the year.
Huh. Interesting. It's not really a contract if it doesn't. You don't have to follow terms. But okay, I don't know. Yeah. I'm good with because I mean they do like to write these long, weird, wonky whatevers, and so anything to break those up, I guess, is okay. Senate Bill 263, WHO mandates are no longer accepted. The new legislation prohibits the enforcement and recognition of requirements or mandates issued by the World Health Organization. 298, Bible courses at public charter schools. Okay, whatever. 335, the Voyeurism Victims Act. The Voyeurism Victims Act gives survivors more time to press charges after a person is caught illegally watching someone where they have a reasonable expectation of privacy. Okay. Senate Bill 449, Fertility Treatment and Contraceptive Protection Act. Senator Massey. Boop, boop. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe she did something wrong here. I shouldn't have got excited. And somebody else, both Republican women lawmakers. The legislation adds legal definitions of contraception and contraceptive to the state code. These formal definitions include emergency contraceptives, sterilization procedures, and any device, medication, biological product, or procedure that is intended for use in the prevention of pregnancy, whether specifically intended to prevent pregnancy or for other health reasons. Contraceptive products will need to be legally marketed under the FDA. The Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, which requires manufacturers to submit evidence of the new drug's safety and effectiveness before they can be sold. It also adds formal definition of fertility treatment to state code, which includes the preservation of embryos and in vitro fertilization treatments. The legislation adds language to the state code saying, notwithstanding another law, an individual has the right to engage in activities associated with fertility treatment and contraception. It also adds languages that says state laws do not prohibit activities associated with contraception or fertility treatment, and that the law of the state is clearly and unambiguously acknowledges the right of a healthcare provider to perform and the right of a person to receive or use fertility treatments and contraceptives in the state. Cool. Condoms are legal. Way to go.
Yeah, I'm assuming that allows IUDs as well. I really can't say that unambiguously, but it still seems kind of vague, and I don't understand. This makes it clear that it's still not clear.
Well, if the contraceptive is recognized through the Food, Health, Safety, Cosmetic Act structure, it can be sold and marketed in the state of Tennessee, and it guarantees that people in Tennessee will have access to those products as long as they can clear that hurdle. Okay. Success Sequence Act, which requires family life curricula to include lessons telling students that they would be successful if they take specific sequential steps after high school. Cool, we're going to lie to kids. Those steps are dubbed Success Sequence. It starts with people getting a high school diploma or the equivalency, then either entering into the workforce or pursuing post-secondary degree or credentials, followed by getting married and having children. If you do it in that order, you will be successful. That's a lie. But okay, we could teach that. Teachers are required to provide instruction and evidence about any possible positive outcomes. It also includes language saying children raised by married parents are more likely to flourish compared to children raised in single-parent families. And couples who have children within marriage have a higher family incomes and lower poverty rates than unmarried counterparts. The legislation did not cite where any of the data comes from, but most of it appears to have been pulled from the Heritage Foundation. Cool. Well, I mean, we already teach lies. Let's add another one. Senate Bill 586, unlawful exposure. The new law clarifies the definition of unlawful exposure. According to legislation, unlawful exposure is when somebody distributes a private, intimate image of another identifiable person with the intent to cause emotional distress. That's the one you were talking about. That's the revenge porn one. Whether the person who distributes the image was party to the original agreement or understanding that the image would remain private. Aggravated sexual battery penalties increase under number 678. I don't care. Impersonating a rideshare driver. Okay. The new law makes it a Class B misdemeanor to impersonate a rideshare driver or any other passenger for hire driver. A Class B misdemeanor is punishable by up to $500. So if I just like pull up out in front of the bar, I'd say I'll give you a ride home for $100, but I don't work for Uber.
I think it's more supposed to get people that, kind of show up and pretend to be the Uber driver, going to a popular spot, having their little Uber sign supposedly, but not actually being one, and being like, oh, yeah, I'm here. And just being able to trick someone if they're not paying attention. Because I think a lot, I've never used it, but I think it'll tell you like in the name. I don't know if it'll show you like the picture of the driver or whatever.
I don't know if it's a picture. I never got pictures. I've used Lyft a couple times, and I never got a picture, but I got a name.
I've seen a couple of videos where people have like argued with like the real Uber driver. They're like, you have to tell me your name. They're like, no, I'm supposed to identify you. They're like, no, you have to tell me your name, blah, blah, blah.
Then don't get in the car, you idiots. What are we doing?
But there have been a lot of people that have been like kidnapped by people pretending to be Uber drivers. I think it's trying to curtail that.
I mean, it's still kidnapping.
Right.
We're going to throw a Class B misdemeanor on top of a felony kidnapping. Anyway,
I don't know.
carding, Senate Bill 707, carding for alcohol, tobacco, vape, and hemp. Sellers of tobacco, alcohol, vape, and hemp products will now have to ask for identification if you appear under 50. I'm going to have to pass that one along to the staff. I didn't know that one passed.
Oh.
So, I mean, that reads to me that, like, you come into the shop. A, you appear under 50 because you still look like you're 30, maybe even 25. But B, you are... It doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter if I know you. That's what it says. It doesn't care. It doesn't care that I've sold to you 100 times before. I have to card you by law. I'm gonna have to read that one. 741 prohibition of technology to create child porn. The new law creates a criminal offense for anyone knowingly possessing, distributing, or producing technology, software, or digital tools designed for the purpose of creating materials that include minor engaging in sexual activity or simulated sexual activity.
Just
what?
AI stuff.
Okay, so is AI kiddie porn still kiddie porn?
I believe so. I guess it's still depicting. I mean, they make some pretty realistic videos on just about any kind of AI nowadays.
But that's the loophole. That's the get out of you're not endangering anybody. You're not doing any damage to anyone.
No, it's still
I'm not saying you're not gross. You're still fucking gross. But
essentially, I guess you're still creating that material that is illegal.
So I don't know how I feel about that. I feel kind of weird about it. So, like, if... No, I don't think that doesn't make any sense. That makes zero sense to me. Like, if I would, like, if I produce the technology exists that can make a 12-year-old boy sex bot, that's criminal. Because I'm giving the guy that has some stupid urges that is too dumb or too fucked up in the head to realize that that's a problem and has the urge to fuck a 12-year-old boy. I'm giving him a way to fuck a 12-year-old boy without actually fucking a 12-year-old boy. That's a problem. That's a bad thing.
You could be... It's on the level of, like, essentially almost not really encouraging it. But
I mean, that's like saying if like that.
You were talking about making a robot. Is that what you said?
Right.
Okay.
That's like saying like if I took a picture of.
You're enabling. Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Like, but as I say, if I took a picture of my ex-wife out to the gun range and shot her, that's enabling me to play out a fantasy of killing my ex-wife, and that needs to be criminal. Because if I killed my ex-wife, that would be criminal. If I actually did something to a human being, that would be criminal.
That's not quite the same thing.
It's pretty fucking close to it. It's a facsimile of the reality, then the reality would be criminal, but the facsimile isn't.
Right, but I don't think it's illegal to print out a picture and take it to the gun range and shoot at that picture.
Well, apparently
it would probably. I mean, I think you could even do with some kind of politician, to where you would probably be questioned, but I don't think it's actually illegal for you to take shots at a picture.
Yeah, I
don't know.
I don't know
the finites of the law.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know, but I'm trying to make a metaphor up on the spot, and that's the first one I came to. I don't have an ex-wife, right, for fuck's sake, so like it's not a real story. But it seems to me like that would be a net positive for society to have a way for fucked up crazy people to let out their fucked up crazy situation in a way that doesn't actually hurt anybody.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm assuming it's just kind of on the lines of you're enabling that.
I'm enabling them to get their urges out on something that isn't going to complain about it. Isn't going to fuck them up for the rest of their life.
That's probably more aimed at like creating that material to then presumably disperse it or whatever.
I mean, if I'm going to spend the money and energy making this 12-year-old boy sex bot, I'm going to fucking sell it.
I'm thinking more of like the AI essentially creating.
Right. Again, but it's still like I don't know. That's weird. It's weird. I'd like maybe we need to dig into that a little further before we get real. Senate Bill 899, forced entry resistant windows at schools windows and doors at schools. All public school buildings, including public charter schools built or remodeled after today, must have a clear window film or security glazing that meets nationally recognized test standards for forced entry resistance. For glazing systems of each exterior Oh, okay. Like I get the genesis of this idea, but what happens like when the school's on fire and the fire department's trying to force their way in through a window or a door?
Don't think they have to do that. I think they have some kind of like master key to get into a lot of places that have like key cards or whatever. I could be wrong, but
I mean, hopefully, but I'm just saying, like, you know, there's a classroom. And
presumably, if it's on fire, they wouldn't have to break in anyway.
I mean, but why do they carry axes? Like, isn't that part of the whole axe thing? And they have a number of tools that are intentionally designed to break into things.
Right.
Anyway, fingers crossed that
I think that's more for just like security of someone trying to break into it.
No, you're right. Again, I understand. Like as I'm saying, I understand the genesis of this is to, like, you know, the school goes on lockdown because there's an active shooter or something like that. It's designing the building to make it harder for that shooter to get into the classroom to shoot kids. I get that, but just, you know, I don't know. My reptilian brain went to the spot where, well, if it's harder to get in the classroom for that shooter, is it harder for somebody who needs to get in that classroom for a good reason to get in there? I don't know. That's just a question. Yeah. Pre-K screener. The legislation allows pre-K teachers to use a universal screener approved by the State Board of Education to measure student growth. The screener would replace the current portfolio growth model. The universal screener would generate individual growth scores for teachers. Kindergarten through second grade teachers would also use universal math, whatever. All right. Senate Bill 1332, vetting individuals involved in released time courses. You want to read this one for me? I'm so confused just on the title.
See, the law requires that any person employed as a released time course instructor or in position requiring proximity to students must undergo a criminal history records check through the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
Oh, okay. So
if you're like a proctor?
No, I think it's if I'm helping out with like pick-up and drop-off lines at school. I mean, you have to have a background check to go on field trips now.
Right.
So it sounds like you have to have a background check to be a line helper on pick-up drop-off.
You already started reading ahead, yeah. When a student is excused from school.
Interesting. Senate Bill 1346, Preventing Deep Fake Images Act. The law creates civil and criminal consequences for unauthorized disclosure of intimate digital depictions, including deepfakes. The law allows those whose likenesses is shared without their consent to sue. The law says valid consent must be in writing and include a clear description of the content and visual work incorporated in the depiction. Releasing or threatening to release intimate digital depictions is now a Class E or Class C felony. Okay. I get it. It also runs up into a freedom of speech thing a little bit for me, but I get it.
How do you see it as protected in speech?
I mean, how is it different than like the New Yorker comic that has that cartoony Trump thing that they do or whatever? Like it's like the satire cartoons, the political satire comic cartoons that have been in existence forever. It is a depiction.
I thought it specifically talked about just like sexual, basically. And it didn't talk about like embarrassing or anything like that.
The law allows
intimate digital depictions.
Unauthorized.
Sounds like that's what it's focusing on.
The law says valid consent must be in writing, clear. So if I have your permission, I can do a deep fake of you fucking a horse, but only if I have it written permission from you. Well.
And I make detailed of what that depiction is, I guess.
And I have to really. Okay, well that's worthless then. Who cares if that's the case? If it has to be sexual stuff, I mean, I understand the racketeering.
Because I think a number of cases have upheld that satire is not illegal.
Yeah, I like the intimate part of. I don't. That's just weird. Like. Yeah, I agree. Like if I did an AI thing of you and said, "Hey, I'm going to go public with this AI thing of you, you know, fucking your cousin," because you're, you know, like, okay, let's put it in more realistic terms that matter. Like, I hypothetically, I really don't like this Lambert character, and so I get AI to make Lambert, the hedgehog hair guy, screwing his assistant.
Right.
And I go to Lambert and say, you're going to pass this bill, or I'm going to put this picture out. And he's like, well, that picture's fake anyway. It doesn't really matter. It's like
yeah, well, people might believe it.
If people believe it, they believe it. That's not my problem. That's your problem.
Yeah.
And like, that's extortion. Like, that's just extortion. Yeah. Now, if I were to make a picture of the hedgehog screwing his assistant and just put it out there because I think he's a dickhole, that's now criminal too.
Right.
Okay, just trying to break it through.
That's what it sounds like.
1360 weapon makers protection from lawsuits. I don't fucking care. Child care in unused school buildings. The law allows child care facilities by expanding lease. I don't care about that one too. All right, I am tired from reading.
They gave a lot more than I thought they would. I figured it was going to be 4 or 5 tops.
Yeah, we did it. Whew.
I think I was just reading a local story. They're cracking down on homelessness to panhandling, I guess, in certain areas of Knoxville. They've been ramping up and doing more patrols for said offense.
Is it criminal? I know there's places.
Yeah.
I know there's places where there's signs that say you cannot panhandle here.
Yeah, it talked about in it that 20 feet of like a roadway or a restaurant, eatery, public place type of thing. It talked about also between the hours of like sunset and sunrise or whatever, that I guess there's times where it is allowable.
I mean, it's just like panhandling as a term is such a weird one. Like, oh, excuse me. I mean, everybody knows what it is, but at the same time, like definitionally, what's the difference in like, back when we were smokers, me bumming a cigarette off you,
right?
Because we're out shooting pool at the bar, and I'm out of cigarettes. I'm like, hey man, give me a cigarette. Hey man, give me a cigarette. Or maybe more.
Well, they talked about it in the story. I guess I think it was like a spokesperson of like United Way, where they encouraged either A, to give to United Way, or don't give out money, but you can give out like bottles of water, kind of food, etc. So I don't think it necessarily has to be something of monetary value like a cigarette. I think it's specifically if you're giving somebody money, or asking for money.
I mean, I could still do the same thing. It's like, hey, let me get a quarter to play another round of to put in the pool table to get us another rack of balls. Hey, let me borrow $1.
Yeah, that's not panhandling.
Hey, let me get $1 from you. Buy a beer. That's what I'm saying. Like it's.
Well, like I said, I think it's more of like next to like roadways and stuff.
Right.
I guess if you're in like a business, it's probably more of like trespass. So they ask you to leave if you're going around. Because I remember working at a restaurant, and a guy came in that was maybe deaf, but he had like some kind of board, was basically like walking by all the tables, kind of asking for money, and I was like, get out of here, man.
Right.
You can't be trying to panhandle to our customers in here.
Yeah. I don't know.
Or maybe he was just asking for donations, but
whatever. Get out.
It was basically panhandling in my eyes.
Right. I mean, and in that sense, it's easy because it's the discretion of the business to put up with that or not.
So, like in panhandling, I think it's more of like you're on a street corner, etc.
But you can get a permit to panhandle.
To panhandle or to busk?
Panhandle. I mean, it's basically, I don't know. We have a family. It's one family who right here at Morel and Nubbin Ridge, every weekend, now that it's warm.
Oh, is it the race team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the same family.
Yeah.
It's the same set of kids. Maybe it's not the same family. That was assumptive of me. It's the same group of people. It's 2 adults and like 4 kids. And they're the same 2 adults and 4 kids every time that are raising money for their thing. I've actually called it in because they get out there in traffic. They stop fucking traffic.
Yeah. And
you get the right time of day, which is when they're out there working, because that's what they're doing. Working, raising money for whatever they're raising money for. It's irrelevant. Like, Morel will get backed up all the way past Westland.
Right.
Without them doing that. But then people are stopping longer to give them some money and stuff like that. And it's like, I'm sorry. This is ridiculous. I'm an asshole. I might be racist because of this one. Whatever. I'm not okay with sitting in traffic any longer than I already have to with the amount of volume that Morrell takes right there, because that's when Morrell drops down to 2 lanes, and it's a stop sign at Nubbin Ridge, and it takes forever to get through there, and it takes even longer because these guys are out there raising money for their thing.
Right.
And it's like, the inverse of that is I think it's genius on their part. And if I were still in Scouts, I'd be like, why don't we do that? Why don't we sell popcorn on the side of the road at Morrell and Nubbin Ridge? Why are we over here at the gas station or setting up at the grocery stores, where we get the limited traffic of the people going in there, where everybody that lives back in here is going to drive right by there? Let's put a bunch of our elementary age kids on the side of Morrell in the busiest time of the day with signs saying, give us money, we'll give you popcorn.
Yeah, I don't know if they define it differently. It's like asking for donations versus panhandling.
I called it in. Anyway, I called it in, and they said they pulled the paperwork. There's a permit you can pull for that.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm a dick, I guess. Like, it's, I don't know. I'm getting to be a crotchety old man, and that's one of the things that sets me off.
I've got annoyed in like a major like interstate where somebody is actually panhandling, where the person in front of me is trying to give them some money, and it's holding up the traffic. And I'm like, come on, man! I'm going to miss my green light.
I see the other side of that. The other side of that, I get a little I get a little uncomfortable in it, and not that anybody's giving money or not, but you're kind of trapped. Like, if it's in traffic, you're kind of trapped.
Yeah.
Like, if the guy comes up and looks at your window, and you're like, no, man, whatever, I'm good. But he doesn't like to take no for an answer. You got a car on, like, if it's a 2-lane interstate exit, like the paper mill one, there's a guy there very often. And I'm sitting there, and there's the crash barrier on the curb, and there's the second lane, and there's 10 cars lined up over there. I'm behind 2 cars. There's 5 cars behind me. I got nowhere to go. I'm stuck.
Right.
If, for whatever reason, this guy flips a switch because I didn't give him a dime, I have very little option to do anything. And hopefully the more logical thing is run away and not be violent in return. But that's it. That, like, it literally, like, it makes the choice for me in the fight or flight conversation. I only have one of those 2 choices in that situation. There is no flight. It is a fight only situation. And maybe that's a paranoia that I have, and because it's never actually happened. I've had some bums yell at me a time or two when I wouldn't give them money or a cigarette or whatever.
I was with my dad years ago. We were driving through like downtown Atlanta. The only time I've experienced where I basically had like a supposed like window cleaner that just started like washing the window trying to get some money. I think my dad may have given a little bit of money. But it was, like, hey, no thanks. I'll need you washing my window.
Right. Don't touch my car.
I don't know what blue, that could be blue Kool-Aid for all I know. I don't know if that's actually like Windex. You could just be like smearing some stuff on there.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. It sucks that it exists. It sucks that we can't figure out something better to do than, I mean, there's some, like, again, there is a number of people who like the lifestyle. Like
I think I mentioned in that I think they called it like aggressive panhandling.
Right, and again, that's one of those things.
It's not just like standing there with the sign, kind of passively.
That's one of the things that's funny is because, like, this backroom Knox guy, which I've been getting in constant arguments with him and his followers as of late. But one of his things is he's very adamant about how terrible Knoxville is in dealing with the homeless. And it's like I kind of agree with him on a lot of this stuff. Like, I don't know where the policy of the city of Knoxville is exactly on the issues. But he goes out there and talks to people, and according to them, I keep assuming it's a him, but according to them, there is he met a guy who guesses that he spends about $50,000 a year on heroin, and he affords that by panhandling.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing like a 2020 or Dateline like years ago, where they found a few different people that that were panhandling, but then at the end of the day they'd go like get in a car. And I think they talked to a couple of them, and some of them said they were averaging almost like $30,000 a year just panhandling. Yeah,
there's one I remember seeing one with this guy in New York got into like a fucking Maserati or something, and this is before Maseratis made like affordable versions of Maseratis.
Yeah.
Like, and he goes into a parking garage in New York City that's probably, $50 an hour or something like that. Like some ridiculous, parking in the city. So he pays his parking fee and drives home to his house in Jersey or whatever, making like $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be making something close to that if you have a house and a car and you can drive in and out of the city in it. That's big money.
Right.
I mean, this was probably back in the early aughts, maybe late 90s when I remember seeing that story, but one way or the other. It's craziness. Like that's, I mean, it's kind of ingenuitive, I guess. Like if you're gonna like, you get to, if you're comfortable being outside all day and you can make good money doing it.
Right.
You know, I can't hate on somebody for winning at life in a way that I don't understand.
You go to the really nice, kind neighborhoods where people are willing to give you $5-10 every time or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. There's one guy who, when Joann's was doing their going out of business clearance stuff, they hired to stand on the corner with a sign, had a kid with him the whole time. Like, I drove by him like 10 times. This kid's just sitting in a little lawn chair behind him.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, that sucks.
I think I had a friend of a friend like years ago that claimed that like he went out on like Morel or some like major road and had like a fake like Red Cross. Like he literally just like bought a bucket and painted like the logo on there and like got some money that way.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
I remember, UT continues their Maplehurst purchase plans, even though they're not buying it. It is the university funding, fiscal funding corporation or whatever out of Atlanta that I was telling you about.
All right.
Apparently, a couple of people that live in Maplehurst drove down to Chattanooga to yell at the board for the UT trustees meeting this week down in Chattanooga.
Nice.
They're very upset about it.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's like a little kitschy neighborhood.
Well, what seems to be what happened is the people who own the complex, the 6.5 acres, have decided to sell, and they didn't really put it on the market. They just went to UT and said, "Hey, you want to buy it?" UT has they have no intentional plans for it. You know, like they bought property on the south side of the river intentionally to be the landing zone for their stupid footbridge.
Right.
Like it was part of a plan. They planned to buy it. Now this is just UT expanding because the opportunity was there, not because they have want or need for it.
Or maybe the sellers thought that would be the best. I mean, the easiest purchaser. It's like,
sure,
hey, you're buying up all this land, and you've got land right next to it. Because I think there is a lot. I think there's a UT student lot that's like right next to it as well.
I mean, I have no issue with the owner of the property approaching UT and saying, "Hey, you want to buy this?"
Right.
That doesn't bother me at all. It bothers me that the University of Tennessee is buying property for no reason except that it's available.
Yeah. I think they've announced that the old Walmart building is going to be a student rec center for UT.
Yeah. That's the company. The Tough company is buying that as well. UT is not buying it outright. Tough is buying it. So the Maplehurst one, at least, the program is that Maplehurst is buying it for like $45 million. And over the next 5 years, they're going to manage it on behalf. They can sell it or parts of it off if they want to, but the purchasers of the people that they sell it to it has to be a positive, it has to have a positive impact on the university.
Positive impact?
Right. So if they're going to sell it, the person buying it has to agree in the purchase that whatever they build on it is positive to UT, which probably realistically comes down to UT gets to look at it and say, who wants to buy it? What do they want to do on it? Okay, that's good for us. We'll take it. That's likely how that functionally works.
Or just preventing something that would hurt or cost against the university.
Right. No, we don't like that. You can't sell it to those people. And so
I'm assuming they would have to have some kind of legal cause or legal proof that it would hurt them financially, reputationally, etc.
No, because Tough just like at the end of the day, Tough is a client of the university, and so they say, Tough, you're not allowed to sell to them, and Tough will say, okay, we won't sell to them.
Possibly,
you know, they can agree. They can Tough has the rights to get into conversations with potential buyers, but at the end of the day, UT has the final say on whether Tough's allowed to sell it.
Okay.
And UT's decision can be based wholly on who is buying it. And then, anyway, budget. The UT had their annual board meeting thing down in Chattanooga. A couple people from Maplehurst went down there and yelled at them and said that's not cool. So I can't remember. I forgot. I didn't get the notes on it, but I could do the math backwards. UT Knoxville is 63% of the total University of Tennessee budget. System budget. Yeah. UT Knoxville's portion of the system budget is $2.34 billion
annually.
Yeah, the next fiscal year.
Right.
That's a crazy amount of money. That's an insane amount of money.
Yeah.
And like $400 million of that is auxiliary income is what they call it. Things that aren't related directly to education. So not tuition, not grant money, not state not state funding. Like so, what's $400
People
million?
like renting out space for money.
So it would be whatever the university gets in ticket sales for football games, which is a very small portion of ticket sales. Whatever portion the university gets from television rights for basketball games. But whatever the university gets when somebody plays Thompson, when somebody plays Nayland, when somebody uses the Clarence Brown Theater for a ticketed event.
Yeah.
Like that's a rentable venue for a performance. And so like that adds up to about $440 million a year, apparently, is what they project. They're going to make off of that stuff. Like they probably give it to Knox County, but if like somebody wants to rent the baseball stadium, if they like if some little league baseball organization wants to do like the finals of their tournament at Lindsey Nelson,
right,
or whatever, like that kind of shit, that's how they make that money. That's a lot of money. Like that's a crazy amount of money. Like I can't, like the entire Knox County budget, including Knox County schools, is like 1.129, 1.112.
Wow.
It's barely over $1 billion.
Yeah.
500,000 people that include some of these students get $1 billion in budget. $2.34 billion for 30,000 students, 37,000 students or something like that. Their goal is to get to 40-something in-person students by 2030.
Damn.
I mean, that's a crazy amount of money. Guess who's not donating to UT ever again, except for when I have to for band.
You think Thompson has flat rates, or do you think they charge the bigger acts more because they know they're going to profit more off of playing the place?
I think it's. I would think that I think they would just have schedule. It's just schedule. It's when's it available, when's it easier, when's it harder.
They might charge more for like a Friday night.
Right. They charge more for a Friday night than a Wednesday night. They charge more for a Thursday night that has something on Friday night afterwards because they have to get it cleaned
Extra
up and
staff,
switched over.
yeah.
Right. I would say that's it. I would assume that is the way they do it. I don't know the answer to that, but I would assume it's very. It's. I mean, they may. It's like, oh well,
It's like, Paul McCartney's come in like, well, you're going to charge $500 a ticket, so we're going to charge you more for having it here.
But again, like a lot of those are super complex in that it's like, well, the room might be a flat fee by the day, like it might be on stupid numbers, not even real numbers, but it's $100 for a weekday, it's $500 for a weekend,
right?
But Paul McCartney's coming and he's charging a gajillion dollars a ticket, but it's also Paul McCartney. He's going to sell the place out. We'll still give it to you for $500 for the day, but the real money and argument and negotiation is percentage of merch sales, percentage of concessions. I'm sure. I'll bet you those big acts, like big enough acts, they're probably negotiating over parking sales.
Yeah,
that it's like we not only get 50% of merch or 50% of concession sales. We also get 20% of your parking lot sales.
Yeah.
When you have X number of parking spaces, you're going to charge $25 a space. We get $10 a space. I'm sure they have. So I'm sure that's in contract when they get all that set up. Yeah. Like if it's owned lots, like if it's lots that are owned by and are available for the event, then we get I would think so. I think if I were a manager, if they're not asking for that, I'd just made a new revenue stream for those guys if they're not already doing it.
I'll give them ideas now.
But I mean, that's what they do. I mean, anybody that does that kind of stuff, you're looking at every possible whatever, like screens that are throughout the building, like what ads are run on them. Like UT doesn't get to run ads on the screens that are outside in the causeway. If they want to run ads for stuff that's UT's profitable stuff, that it's ads, like UT has a Food City ad that they run on their screens out there while you're waiting in line for concessions. Mm-hmm. We either get a cut of that or you don't get to run that ad. It's our people are in there for us. we get a I mean, I guarantee you these tour managers and promoters they look at every single.
Probably, yeah.
If anybody is making money off it, they get a piece of it because this thing doesn't exist without my promotion that I'm putting here.
Right.
You know, or inversely, it's a trade off. It's you pay more for this and we keep that, or you pay less for this and you keep that, or whatever.
Yeah. All negotiation contracts.
Right, because I mean, because I think like security and all the different staffing that's in play gets to be negotiated on who's paying for the staffing and stuff like that. I mean, one of the things that's like when I've messed around with it and what little I've done with music, with managers of bands and musicians or whatever, is a lot of the contracts include lodging. Like, you know, we charge $7,500 to play anywhere. That's what our band asked for. It's like, well, you start the negotiation. It's like, well, you know, we'll take $6,000, but you're paying for flights and hotels.
Right.
Or I'll pay the $7,500 and you guys deal with everything else. Like, it's just that's one of those negotiating things. You know, we'll pay you $6,000. We'll get you a hotel. You get your own flights. We'll staff your merch booth. So you just have to bring your merch and we'll take care of it and we'll get you get 90%, we get 10% of your merch sales, but we'll staff your booth for you.
Right.
Or we'll get you a booth, but you have to staff it yourself. You have to bring your own POS. We'll provide the POS for your merch station, like all that kind of shit. You negotiate the fuck out of it. But I mean, in contract, like in booking requests. So I sent a request for Brass Against the Machine for a date last year. And in the request, it had what's the date, what's the venue, and then it was all sorts of stuff. Are you going to pay for this, or are we paying for this? Lodging, hotels, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, depending on the time frame that they would need to be there for the event. Yeah. It's usually lunch and dinner the day of the event, breakfast the day after. Like, are you paying for that, or are we paying for that? Like, all the way down the list. As many things, anything you can think of that anybody would possibly spend $1 on in the process.
Yeah. It's got to be a pretty big act to have your own personal chef that comes with you.
Right. And I'm not paying for
like,
that.
No, we're a middling band. Like, we need some food, too. Work that into the contract.
Yeah. You know, it's like,
we're at a freaking stadium. They got to have some hot dogs, hamburgers laying around somewhere.
Well, like, apparently, like, I saw an interview with Bert, and he was making fun of himself like he always does. But he's like in his rider, when he's on tour, it is explicit in his rider that when they have their staff meeting, their security meeting for the day of the event, that all staff is aware that there's going to be a guy who does not have credentials because he refuses to wear a lanyard.
Oh.
And so he got kicked out of a venue by some security guy once, and he pitched a fit about it. And it's like,
is anybody else walking around with their shirt off? It's me.
Right. He's like, they're like, that's what he said. He's like, in the rider, it says he'll probably be without a shirt on in gym shorts, walking around the venue.
Right.
And so, like, he was doing exactly that. And some security guy's like, "Hey, man, you can't be here." He's like, "No, I'm supposed to be here. I'm the talent. It's okay." And like, "No, man, you got to get the fuck out of here." And they drug his ass out the door. And like, he pitched a fit on the venue. And it's like, come on, man. Like,
everybody's got credentials.
It's
for
actually
a reason. Like,
it's actually good for you that the security staff doesn't care who you are.
That's true. Yeah. Because
you know what the security staff's not supposed to be doing while you're doing your thing? They're not supposed to be watching you. Because if they're watching you, they're not watching the people that might be there to hurt you.
Right.
That's their job. So it's a good thing that the security staff doesn't know who you are, doesn't care who you are. That's in your
protect
best.
Everybody.
That's in your best interest.
Right.
But alas, I don't know. I guess we should at least address for just a second. It is Thursday night, not Friday night, as normal for everybody. Friday is 4th of July. It's 5th of July for you guys listening. I already have a panic dog because a couple of my neighbors have been throwing some fireworks up the last couple of nights. I'll be spending all night tomorrow night cuddling and loving on him and trying to make sure he knows that he's not going to die.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah, he's like, he squeezes under the bed that he doesn't fit under.
Yeah.
It's bad. We had to take apart the bed last year.
You tried like the thunder blankets or whatever?
No.
I guess they're just I think they're just weighted blankets basically for pets.
No, like we've tried the CBD dog chews and stuff like that. He just won't eat them. Yeah. He's never been a treat talk. The only thing I can get him, like when he's got like when he gets medication or whatever, it's like in a piece of meat. That's the only thing I can do. Like I take a piece of chicken. We always have hot dogs in the fridge, so I'll rip a piece of hot dog off, and that's it. That's all I can ever get him to eat.
Maybe we just haven't found the right treats.
Yeah, probably not. All right, man. Let's get weird. I mean, to be fair, he'll eat bacon, but he won't eat
bacon strips.
He won't
you
eat
can't really
bacon
add
flavored.
anything to the bacon.
He won't eat
strips.
bacon flavored stuff.
Huh.
I mean, he has maybe his palate is so sophisticated he can tell the difference. And he's like, I'm not eating that fake ass shit. Get out of here with that.
That's not real. I know it's not. My sense of smell is 50 times better than yours.
Yeah.
You don't have to open up that bag. I can tell you that's not bacon. I didn't smell. I didn't smell it when you were cooking it. I didn't hear the crackling.
All these things.
Yeah.
We had a deep discussion about the difference in dogs and cats' vision, because our cats definitely watch TV.
I've heard of cats that do that. I think there's like YouTube videos you can put on for like 4 pets. For cats, it's like a bunch of
when the kids were
birds and
little, the funniest thing ever was there was an iPad fish game for cats.
Huh.
You open it up and it's like you're looking down in a little pond, and little fish would swim by, and the cats would swat at it.
Yeah.
And like when they do, the cat touches the screen, and the screen reacts to the touch, and then the fish will swim away.
It's one way to fuck up your iPad.
Yeah.
I guess you could have a good screen protector on there.
Yeah, just declaw them. It's not mean or anything. It's not like you're taking off their first digit or anything.
My grandfather got really mad when I brought up that. He's like, "Don't you ever do that to a cat."
Yeah,
they was more used to having outdoor cats, and he was like, you're risking them not being able to protect themselves if they run into.
Well, it's like I think they have to take off the whole first digit.
Yeah, I think they do take like down to the first knuckle or something like that.
Anyway,
essentially where the cuticle is.
Yeah, sorry. Weird. Get weird.
Let's see here.
I got distracted. My bad.
We've got a Euro 2025 Pitt celebrated soccer couple Harder and Eriksson as opponents in Denmark-Sweden game.
So we got a gay couple?
Yep.
All right. Just making sure it wasn't some co-ed thing. I was just making sure I understood it correctly.
Yeah. It's rare in top-level soccer for a player to be tasked with marking their life partner, who was also the opponent's star striker.
And the other one's a defender?
Let's see here.
Well, if he's going to mark him, he's got to be a defender.
Not necessarily. I mean, you're still marking people all throughout the field.
Yeah, but if you're a striker, you're not marking another striker because they're on the other end of the field.
Depending on where you're positioned at, or where the ball's at. Because you're still going to have forwards close enough to each other.
Almost an agreement at gmail.com. Anybody out there who is a soccer tactician, please email and tell me to tell Sam that I'm right. You're not going to have. You will never have a match where it's Messi against Ronaldo and they are defending each other. Ever. Even though I think Messi was a midfielder, so he might actually every once in a while. But not really. Not as a mark. That's crazy talk.
Apparently one of them did get injured once. Harder had treatment for an injured side, then got Eriksson's elbow in her face when they wrestled at a corner near the end of Sweden's 2-1 win.
Oh, it's girls soccer.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know why that's less surprising. Actually, I know exactly why that's way less surprising. But anyway, sorry.
Let's see here. Did you see that China's humanoid robots generate more soccer excitement than their human counterparts?
I did see that
3-on-3. I didn't watch any of the video. I saw like a still picture. I didn't watch any of the game. But
it's pretty funny. Like it's really funny, but it's also frightening. It's just we are racing as fast as we can to make the Terminator movie real. Because it's like apparently Iran has been tossing around the idea of starting a space program. Why does Iran need a space program? They don't give a shit to go to the moon. The number one
put more satellites in space.
The satellites, and like we talked about it last week too, about the peripheral benefits of NASA. It perfected our intercontinental ballistic missiles. We can drop a missile anywhere in the world that we want because we know how to build rockets that we can point anywhere we want and they'll go there.
Yeah.
So, because that's one of the things apparently about Iran and their nuclear program. What little bit of enriched uranium or whatever they have, which isn't that much, is only enriched to 60%, which isn't that useful. It's way more useful than any civilian application, but it's not anywhere near a military surplus
weapons grade or whatever.
Right. But even if they did build a warhead, they have no weapon system to put it on to deliver it. Like one of the expert guys was on.
No, I mean they've got rockets that have been hitting Israel, so I mean they've got some range. Maybe not necessarily ICBMs that go further.
Well, not big enough that could carry a nuclear warhead.
I don't think they're that heavy compared to any kind of traditional weapons payload.
The one that they like the one that they like if they had the capability, what they were going to make, like because they're making a uranium bomb, they're not making a plutonium bomb.
Well, I mean, you look at the pictures of like Fat Boy and like was it Fat Boy and Little Man or something like that? They weren't that big.
Yeah, they were. Fat Boy was like half the size of this room.
No, I don't think so.
They're huge.
I don't think they were more than like 10 feet. Could be wrong. I mean, because they fit in like the B-52 bombers. I think
it's like 6 feet tall, round, or 6 feet diameter missile, and it's probably like 10 or 12 feet long.
Possibly. I don't know. The pictures, I didn't think they looked that big.
I mean, I remember people standing by it and being as tall as the guy standing by it.
Right.
Back then, maybe 5'10".
Right.
But it was on a pallet or something. They had to be on something they could pick up, forks, whatever. It doesn't matter. That was this guy's analysis was, if they were capable of building the warhead, the best they could do to do real damage was to like put it on the back of put it in a Toyota pickup truck and drive it across the desert.
Yeah.
They don't have a delivery system capable of carrying a warhead anywhere.
Gotcha.
And I forgot where I started this, other than to argue about Iranians wanting to start a space program so they could build missile systems. Where were we before that? Oh, the soccer thing.
Yeah.
I just like, what are we, like? It's neat. It's cool. It's fun. And I could see a whole bunch of civilian application, which makes it useful for humanity and mankind. But I could also, like, I also see Terminator.
Our jobs.
I also see Terminator. Yes, they're going to steal our jobs, and we'll see how. Like,
our sports stars' jobs.
We will see how our governments react to it when they do start stealing our jobs. I mean, because it's one of those. I get the argument when you go back in time, like major innovations in production. Like steam power became a thing, and that's the Industrial Revolution, and we went from, handmade from scratch everything to these mass-produced whatevers,
right?
And it changed the world, and everybody at that time was freaking out about, well, like I build wagons, I can't build wagons anymore because we have, the train came along. Nobody needs a wagon, and at some point you got to update your skill set and get into something new, and technology advances and whatever. But it's like, okay, work-wise, sure. Technology advances. We figure out how to keep jobs and keep people working. Great.
Right.
But, like, what does war look like in this, realistically? Because why wouldn't we develop a fucking robot that can do all the killing for us? And then what happens when, our super robots are fighting the Chinese super robots? Like, what is the end game here? Like, it gets into this weird,
just
like...
to win. I mean, it's almost like a win-at-all-cost type of mentality when you get down to war.
But we say, okay, so we have our warbots versus your warbots. Is the win is our warbots kill all your warbots, and then our warbots kill all your people? Or our warbots, like, trap and detain all your people and control them that way? Like, I don't, like...
I mean, I'd say they probably do have, like, kinetic things to where they can fire upon a live being.
Yeah,
that stops, I guess, the death of your own forces.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like at some point, that's the only logical conclusion here. Like that's like what are we doing with the drones? How many drones? Like, what percentage of a drone's operation is actually done by humans anymore? They're not really
that's
flying
definitely
them.
changed a lot of warfare.
Yeah, and so it's
like they can just be made cheaper and cheaper, and you can strap a bomb onto them or whatever.
Right, just fly it through somebody's window and blow it up.
Yeah,
and but I don't know. Like it's. I don't know. Maybe it's the pessimist in me that I feel like we're just kind of blindly barreling into this AI robot revolution, and we're not really thinking about the consequences or what the potential bad side is. Like, I feel like we've made 1,000 movies on this.
Yeah, we mentioned it before. It's kind of like worrisome when like the people that are involved in AI like a year or two ago are warning us that like, hey, we may need to put some kind of constraints on this before it gets out of control.
Right. And instead, it's how do we figure out how to
maximize profit off.
Right, which is one of the things about the big beautiful bill that drives me. That's probably the dumb. Like, there's a lot of dumb in there, but the one where like the bunch of the dismantling of the Biden infrastructure, COVID rebuild, whatever bill it was, that had a bunch of energy stuff in it.
Yeah,
a bunch of federal spending and subsidies for energy production are all getting ripped out because that's how they made the less of a deficit mess.
Yeah, I thought there was something in it that prevented like states from suing like AI companies, or it stopped states from being able to sue around some kind of like technological.
I don't know. But it's just like it's taking out a bunch of subsidies for energy production. Period. Doesn't matter whether it's green or not.
I think there's all sorts of stuff, and I saw a video the other day that there's a provision in there that talked about it cut down, I guess, from 100% down to 90% of what you can write off for like gambling losses, basically. Which I didn't think that you can write off gambling losses.
You can. I knew you could do. Could do that, but
they gave like the example of. You won $10,000 in a year, but you lost $10,000 and buy-ins, etc. If you want to talk about poker or whatever, but you can only write off $9,000 of that, so you're still paying $1,000 taxes on $1,000 of like I guess quote unquote income or whatever.
Right. If
you couldn't write off that full amount now.
Right. If your total transactions in a year, assuming there was no minimum on taxation, you earned $10,000, you spent $10,000, you could only write off $9,000, meaning you still earned $1,000 and you pay taxes on $1,000.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a part of this? I mean,
but
I've seen a lot of things that there's so much stuff in it.
Maybe that's one of my silver linings is they're basically cutting the incentive to grow energy production, which means,
yeah, I think I read about it cutting like subsidies for like EVs and et cetera.
Yeah, so like this big, Elon's big AI plant or whatever he's putting in Memphis, who TVA had already started building a thing on, which I'm assuming they're going to finish or whatever, but like, all this AI cloud storage stuff that takes a ton of energy may have a problem getting the energy it needs. So then we get into the fun situation where what happens when Elon Musk's giant cloud server that has international effects of, I don't know, that whole like Sky, what's it called?
Skynet?
No, that's the Terminator 2
No,
thing.
I thought that's what you're talking about.
His internet, his satellite internet thing. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, the cloud service centers over here in Memphis. And,
Starlink. Sorry.
Yeah, Starlink. And it's a hot summer day, and the Memphis grid is maxing out.
What do they prioritize?
Do they shut down the data center that has international impacts because our service members in Iran, who are in the middle of a war again, are use Skylink or whatever to do battlefield communications? Well, we can't turn that off. Well, it's 100 degrees outside. I guess your power's going out.
Yeah.
That's not really a world I want to live in. Anyway, one more weird. Let's get one more real weird, and we'll move on.
Let's see here.
Soccer playing Chinese robots.
Let's see here. A woman's house in California was burglarized so many times that even bears went in.
Damn. Speaking of TVA, to jump off topic, did you get up last Saturday and watch the towers come down?
No.
I kind of wish I would have known about that. I don't know if
I think they made a video of it.
I did see some videos on it. It kind of been fun to watch, though,
Yeah, as I was saying, they were discouraging public trying to go out to try to watch it.
I mean, there's not really. I don't know if there's many good places to view it from.
No, like I said, I think there's a park close to it.
Yeah, I would have liked to have tried, but anyway,
I think they had the road shut off for miles just to prevent anybody from getting close to it.
So just
liability reasons.
So basically, a lady didn't have a door on her house, and the bears came in because people would kick their door in so many times that she didn't even bother putting the door back on.
Let's see here. Was so badly damaged by a series of burglaries that bears were able to get inside. Let's see here. They charged over the what? Said it filed burglary charges over the past week against 11 people for the break-ins.
I have many questions.
I guess she was driven from the home, so with the house empty, bears went inside.
So
I guess she gave up on living there because it got that bad.
I mean, so it's like a shit neighborhood, and people are breaking into all houses all the time. Like I have a lot of
I mean, sometimes I guess word gets around that it was an easy target. I don't know.
Yeah, but like, what's left?
I guess you tell people what's left. Like I was in there, like, hey, I wasn't able to grab that painting off the wall. There's still some big stuff in there.
I feel like if there's police tape over the door, I'm going to assume if I'm a burglar that there's probably not much worth stealing. Although,
well, I think it was that house of the slain Minnesota representative that the house got broken into like within a week after that. I think it was within like a few days, where the police had like boarded up the windows and people like came around stuck in the backyard and got inside. But supposedly the police had already swept for evidence of everything, but I guess people saw it as an easy target. They're like, oh, all I've got to do is go there with a crowbar and I can pry off the piece of plywood.
But that makes,
off.
I mean, like, I'm not condoning it, but that makes logical sense, because like it's a crime scene that has nothing to do with that. And so the defenses of the home are down, and
right.
It's
the same thing with burglaries. Somebody's already busted out a couple windows.
Yeah, but again, like if you know that house was burgled, you got to assume that the good stuff's already gone. I don't know.
Now, you can still go in there for the copper pipes and whatnot. I don't know.
Pull the catalytic converter off this bitch.
I mean, people will buy all sorts of shit.
That's true.
There's always
and
random stuff you can buy.
It's now an organized crime if you try to sell that stolen stuff on Facebook in Tennessee.
Yeah.
We learned something tonight. Learned a few things tonight. We learned that I can read poorly. It's actually not that I can read or not read. It's just that I can speak what I'm reading well. That's really where I struggle. Especially when I'm trying to figure out how honest WVR's take on what the law is actually meaning versus what the law actually is. Anyway, Almost Agreement, almostagreement@gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. Find us on your favorite podcast provider. Like, spend, share, follow, text your friends. Do what you can do to support the show. And stop UT from growing. It's I'm done with it. I'm trying to think of a hashtag. Hashtag big enough. Hashtag big orange screw? No, that's always a football thing. Hashtag smaller orange. I don't know. We'll work on it. If you got any ideas, almostagreement@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye. Oh, hope everybody survived well. 4th of July. Fingers, toes. We only need a couple of them to actually function, so you can lose one and not worry about it. So if you're going to blow stuff up, just lose 1 or 2 fingers, not all 5. That's all I'm trying to say. Anyway, bye, everybody. Bye.